Peace and love, y'all. It's your brother A.D.V.I.S.S back with another What's the Word Wednesdays. This is season 4, the final season, episode 14. Now, with that being said, we're going to do like we usually do. Put up the logo. And then also, we're going to post in the comments and pin it of our topics for tonight. So as I'm doing that, as y'all are coming in, y'all let me know how y'all doing, how y'all feeling, and what's the word. Got some stuff to say, got some stuff to do. But again, appreciate y'all for supporting. Appreciate y'all for coming through as you usually do, and giving your time. So thank you for coming and rolling through. And shouts out to those that are here as well as who are watching this later, or those who will be watching this later, whether on Instagram, YouTube, and other platforms. If you're there on YouTube, go ahead, subscribe to A.D.V.I.S.S Speaks. It's my channel. Go ahead, hold a brother down, subscribe, tap in. You'll see all different things. We started back up interviews, so now we got more interviews coming back, as well as a new series under more interviews called Show Us More, where we go in depth into a person's project, artist, poetry, etc. All that's being said, and their previous alumni. So shouts out to that again. Go ahead and subscribe to A.D.V.I.S.S Speaks. With that, what's going to be going on for tonight's episode? We're going to be getting into the topics. Of course, first, we're going to be doing our current event. So looking at a couple of articles, speaking on some news that we heard about and what's been, happening. Second, we're going to be getting into talking about legally pawns and what's the significance behind that. And then lastly, we're going to be talking about, can we stand and deliver ourselves away from the system, or this system in particular? All questions will have some answers and many more questions asked after these answers from the topics for tonight. So again, subscribe, show love, come through. We're going to be just doing our thing, man. No more distractions. We don't need no more distractions. There's already enough in this world, for real. All right, cool. We got that set up. I'll give just a few more seconds, and then after that, we'll get started with the show song, and then get into these current events, and just keep it pushing from there, because we got to. That's just how it goes. As well as, I got my water with me. Make sure you stay hydrated. No matter what time or where you are right now, hydrate. But all right, y'all. With that, let's go ahead and let's do this show song. Let's get it going. Again, don't worry. Soon this is going to be a whole song. You ain't got to worry about me singing along anymore. But for now, gotta let you know. What's the word, y'all? What's the word? What's the word, y'all? What's the word? What's the word, y'all? What's the word? Tell them like, what's the word? What's the word? What you heard? We gotta know, yeah, what's the word? Peace and love, y'all. It's your brother A.D.V.I.S.S back with another episode of What's the Word Wednesdays, season 4, the final season, episode 14. I have to keep reiterating it, because after this, you better capture it all before it's gone. But with that, y'all, again, shouts out to everyone that's here. Shouts out to those who'll be watching this later. Anywhere that you're going to be watching this, I'm grateful for the time that's taken to watch and to even just listen to the conversations. Now, for tonight, as I spoke before, we're going to be doing current events. So after this, we're going to be getting into current events. If you're not fond of that, For about 20 minutes, we'll be talking, so then you can come in later for the second part, which we're going to be talking about legally pawns and what's the significance behind that. And then lastly, to wrap up the show for the night, we're going to be talking about, can we stand and deliver ourselves away from this system? And shouts out to Fred Word Wizard Hands. Fred Word Wizard Hands in the building, my G. What's the word? Let me know. A phrase, word, whatever it is, y'all. Just let me know. Right. With that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump in to these current events. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 that I want to bring to y'all's attention, and then I will wrap up with NPR headlines that you can go ahead and check out from npr.org. But first article I got for y'all comes from Metro, and the headline reads, an unknown virus has emerged from the deepest place on Earth. Again, with flu season being here, as well as the uptick in new variants and just being aware of health, we got this going on. So 3 paragraphs and then on to another article. I will repeat the headline so you can get it. And speaking of words, echo chamber and information. I'm with it. All right, article reads, a never before seen virus has been discovered lying in the deepest place on Earth. The Mariana Trench. If y'all don't know about the Mariana Trenches, man, shouts out to Saipan. That's where the Mariana Trenches are. It's around that coast. I'm not I was going to say a geologist, but again, I got my maps back there behind me. I know this is the U.S. states, but I got more maps there, but get into that. Let's keep going. Plunging 11,000 meters below the surface of the Pacific Ocean at its lowest point, the murky depths of the trench between Indonesia and Japan are home to a myriad weird and wonderful creatures, including the sea devil, anglerfish, and the goblin shark. Have no clue about these. This is something definitely new to myself as well, y'all. So, it is also home to billions of microscopic resident bacteria, and some of those are infected with a newly discovered virus. Wherever there's life, you can bet there are regulators at work, said Dr. Min Wang, who led a new study of the trench viruses in this case. The virus discovered in the sediment collected at 8,900 meters deep is a bacteriophage, which literally means bacteria eater. So it's eating bacteria. The virus infects and replicates inside of bacteria, but in this case does not appear to kill its host. As the bacteria cells divide, the viral genetic material is also copied and passed on. I'm not going to speak more about it. I don't know if they have a name necessarily for it, but again, if y'all want to read more about this unknown virus, which Tanish, good to see you in here. It's been a while. Peace and love. You can check Metro, and the headline reads, an unknown virus has emerged from the deepest place on Earth. Again, very, very interesting and things to know. Speaking about more health related news, this popped up and it interests me, so that's why I'm going to talk about it. So we in our health bag for right now. So this next article comes from The Healthy. So online you can check for it. The Healthy. And the headline reads, new study. Getting these 3 vaccines may reduce your Alzheimer's risk by 30%, per The Healthy. We'll see. So again, 3 paragraphs and we out. You want to read more? I'll repeat the article after. 'Tis the season to make a vaccine appointment, and now you may have an even greater push to book one. Data show that those routine vaccines you're getting do a solid job fighting off the viruses they're meant to target. Now, new research suggests that they may be doing impressive double duty by protecting you from another illness that's on many Americans' minds. I see the play on words right there. Recent findings published in September this month of 2023 in the peer-reviewed Journal of Alzheimer's Disease suggest that a combination of 3 specific vaccines may help protect your brain down the road too. So let me actually just go down a little bit and figure out what are those 3. So one of the groups that I'm seeing, if they had some takeaways real quick, I see folks that ended up getting the Tdap vaccine. It said that it exhibited 30% decrease risk of Alzheimer's, so Tdap. So that means tetanus shot. We have the diphtheria, shingles, and pneumonia. These are one of the groups that they were in. So from what I'm seeing, it's just these 4 that I'm hearing that if you take these, it also has a likely risk 30% of dropping Alzheimer's risk. Again, if y'all want to read more, y'all can check it out. The article online place you can read it is from The Healthy, and the title reads, "New study, getting these 3 vaccines may reduce your Alzheimer's risk by 30%. And shouts out to the brother, the legend himself, Definite Mass in the building, aka Def Mass. Much love, brother. What's the word? Thank you for popping in. And shouts out to Chairman. I see you in here. Dallas, peace and love. What's the word? All right, let's move to the next one. I'm just doing news for those that's up in here. So we just doing news reports. After that, we'll start jumping into the topics for the night. But appreciate y'all even rolling through for 10 seconds, however, 10 minutes, however long you want to end up being. I appreciate y'all. All right. Now, the next article I got for y'all, because again, I've been noticing still the fluctuations in weather, and it's been very, very, very troublesome for a lot of folks. But I have one speaking to weather. But yes, the word is love. You know, love, man. Learning our values every day. Learning one's values every day. That's love. Showing that to others is a showing affection and love. So I appreciate the word being love. Right. This article comes from GB News, and the headline reads, U.S. weather warning. Huge thunderstorms and twisters forecast as searing heat hits cold front. So let's see what they are speaking on. Again, 3 paragraphs and we out. Article reads, a battle between searing heat from Mexico and a chilly blast from the Arctic threatens to hit the U.S. with violent thunderstorms and a barrage of bulldozing twisters like we ain't already had enough. Tropical southern hemisphere summer air will flood into Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico and surrounding states throughout the coming, pushing temperatures of 105 Fahrenheit or 40 Celsius. Bubbling heat will hold out under high pressures as the tail end of the Hurricane Lee, pulls Arctic air down from the east coast while a separate cold plunge hits the west. 2 air masses will collide, triggering deep atmospheric instability to unleash a barrage of severe thunderstorms and the risk of tornadoes. So, all I'm saying now, this is still in league with Hurricane Lee, but there is definitely a lot of changes in the weather that are making their moves, and it's going to be having an effect on a lot of the surrounding places between Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. So be safe. Again, protect yourself, and let's just say hopefully it's not as harsh as it needs to be. But again, if y'all want to read more, this article came from GB News, and the headline reads, U.S. weather warning. Huge thunderstorms and twisters forecast as searing heat hits cold front. So, bam. That one I saved for myself. Now, this one I'm going to do a short of, since we're already talking about changes in weather and the climate. This article comes from Business Insider, and the headline reads, "A giant eruption covered over half of the sun, then crashed into Earth nearly 12 hours earlier than the forecast." So let's see. I'm just going to read the bullet points for this one, but if you want to read more on it, I will leave that there. Shouts out to you, Santi. Peace and love. What's the word? So, from this article, the three main points they have is, one, the sun formed a giant plasma loop that burst into space on Saturday, shooting solar material at Earth. Not a solar, I don't know if it's the solar flares, or the prominences, but we'll see. They're going to call it right now. This coronal mass ejection reached Earth almost 12 hours earlier than top space forecasters predicted. Again, predictions, you never know. And lastly, forecasting solar storms is especially difficult right now, even as the sun is getting more active. I've been hearing this even in the past year, so it's getting more and more active. Some say it's the decreasing support from the ozone layer and that barrier. Others, global warming, which go along with that. Others are saying that it's just starting to, again, amass a lot of energy, the sun itself. So there's a lot of reasons. But if you want to read more on this, this article came from Business Insider, and the headline reads, "A giant eruption covered over half the sun, then crashed into Earth nearly 12 hours earlier than forecast." So we all up in there. Now, this last article, again, it caught my attention. It may not be anything new, but for me, it's very, very hits home, in particular, working in education, especially in the U.S. So this article comes from the Daily Dot, and the article reads, "What's going on, Kundan? What's the word? Reasons why I had to leave education. 7th grade teacher says his students are performing at 4th grade level or lower." So I'm going to read a bit more on this. I'm not going to read the whole article, but I'm just going to read a bit more than usual so that I can speak a bit about what's happening with this. So, article reads, "A 7th grade teacher is sounding the alarm on a crisis in education that has only been exacerbated by the pandemic." In a viral TikTok with over 1.2 million views, there's a user, it's called QB the Don, said that students have fallen behind more than anyone is willing to admit, and it's time to finally do something about it. We all know that the world is behind, globally, because of the pandemic and stuff. He begins, but I don't understand why they're not stressing to y'all how bad it is. He then drops a bombshell. Apparently, the students he teaches aren't just underperforming, they are years behind. I'm going to just say this, he says. "I teach 7th grade. They are still performing on a 4th grade level. According to research, the pandemic has had a significant impact on students' educational attainment, and many of the gaps in learning have yet to be closed. They have also been worsened by a persistent shortage of educators and high levels of student absentee." And I will tell y'all this, I'm already 100%, if not even more, in agreement to what is already being stated. So I'm not going to read more of it. I'm going to talk a bit on it and then update it from there. But this article came from the Daily Dot, and the headline reads, "Reasons why I had to leave education. 7th grade teacher says his students are performing at 4th grade level or lower." So yeah, I'll speak on this briefly, and then I'll see a couple of comments in there. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for sharing it. But for me, I actually work with middle schoolers, so I'm working from 5th all the way up to 8th, but specifically I'm working with 7th and 8th graders. And this rings so true. The transition from the pandemic back into the schools has shown a significant drop in educational level as well as attainment. So it's very telling that we have all these students here, especially then if you're in different in low income areas with little to no resources for a multitude of things. A lot of the students that I'm even working with that are in 7th grade, I will also say that are even lower than 4th grade level. Some of them still not being able to properly put a sentence together. Others still having to count on their fingers, which again, I'm not saying that it's extremely terrible, but when you're in a class and you're trying to learn this whole new concept, whether if it's doing more complex math, more complex writing, as well as reading and sitting for longer periods of time, it's a lot harder for students to grasp and to stay with that. So to me, this article, again, it's very close to home and what I am doing and why there is such a huge jump. And because of the fact, that's why there's so many students who are also just not coming to school. Because of the fact that it is such a huge gap and challenge that some of them see it as, why should I even try? But yeah, I'm not going to speak too much more on that, but that was my thoughts to it. Y'all share y'all thoughts. I see there's more down here, so let me get into them. Again, peace and love, Kundan. Thank you for coming in here. Did you hear the impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden and the indictment of Hunter Biden? No, I'm going to be honest with you, no. But I am not surprised. And an update to the SB 553. They have removed the part regarding arresting employees for stopping shoplifters. Okay, all right. And Hindu-phobic California bill SB 403 has reached the desk of Governor Newsom for him to sign or veto. He has 12 more days, but hasn't done anything yet. I appreciate the updates. Thank you so much. Again, y'all, be informed. Check out what's going on. And as you're speaking, now I'm seeing some other stuff that you were just saying as headlines. So the last thing for news is I'm going to read some headlines from NPR.org. NPR.org. I am not sponsored in any way, shape, and form. This is just one other place that I go and get information from. So if you want to, NPR.org. So one of the headlines say Senate bucks Tuberville's blockage to begin approving military promotions. So we still, again, allotting a lot of money to the military and putting more people in those places. Another one, fed up customers are increasingly going after food companies for misleading claims. Prices of food is going up, as well as really the health and efficacy behind what food is as well too. Another one, as the U.S. considers more aid to Ukraine, Zelensky says we have the same values. Don't know what that may be. Having a hard time fighting Clorox wipes, blame it on a cyber attack. Interesting. Biden is creating a new White House office focused on gun violence prevention. So we're going to do that. And then, I think this is where we talked about earlier. A.G. Garland defends Department of Justice's Hunter Biden investigation at House Judiciary reading, or I should say hearing. And malaria is on the ropes in Bangladesh, but the parasite is punching back. Just another one I wanted to share. And then last one. California's nursing homes are becoming de facto mental health centers. Yeah, I'm just shaking my head because I'm seeing a lot of these other articles. But again, if you guys want to read more, check out any news outlet that you want to, again, get information from. But in particular, NPR.org npr.org. I'm sounding goofy doing all of this, but yes. But that's all I got for news. If y'all have any more, please throw them down in the comments. Share it. I appreciate it. Because, again, it's very important to be informed, to know what's going on, and to apply that knowledge and wisdom that you are getting from the articles in your everyday life so it makes sense, as well as learning to read between the lines and effectively get the gist and information from what you are reading and digesting. With that, y'all, I'm gonna go ahead, and before we move into the next topic for tonight, disclaimer, as usual, just so y'all know. As much as I love speaking to this screen and speaking to y'all and going back and forth in the comments with y'all, as much as I do love that, this is the portion in time for to jump on and actually build with me on live here. Not in person, but, on live. And if you do so, you do waive your rights. And this is live, so this will be on other platforms, whether Instagram, YouTube, anywhere else. So you do waive your rights if you come on. If you're not comfortable wanting to do so, then it's okay. You can stay in the comments and we can just continue building from there. But other than that, that's the disclaimer, y'all. Just had to let you know. But all right. With that being said, tonight's and the next topic, we're going to be talking about legally pawns. And you're like, okay, legally pawns. Are you trying to play that off of a movie somewhere else? If you were thinking that, you are correct. I was thinking about it from a movie in particular, but just the whole concept. But if you know the movie legally, it's either Legally Blonde. Yes, I want to say that with Reese Witherspoon. But I like to play off words. I make music. I'm an artist, MC, all of that. So yes. But when thinking of legally pawns and what does that all entail, of course I'm going to go through and give some definitions. But the premise of basically what a pawn is and in legal terms, how does that apply to us? It's not really more so a lot of pros and cons stuff today. It's just really what was on my mind when writing this down and just giving it to y'all. So, again, I'm going to go from two different websites describing this dictionary-wise. The first one, and the one that we always usually go to, is Merriam-Webster's, so Webster's Dictionary. So I'm going to go through and read it. If y'all want to guess or put down, when you hear the word pawn, what are the first words that come to mind, or word, or phrase, please put it down in the comments as we're going along. Still talking to y'all too who's watching this later. Don't think you get away either. Put it down in the comments. So, as y'all are doing that, give me for a quick second. Yes, we're going to be reading from Webster's. And then the other one I'm also going to read from is going to be the Free Dictionary, which I like the Free Dictionary. They also have different activities I like to do while we're learning new words. But yes, Free Dictionary and the Webster's. So, first definition that we got for pawn. We have two of the definitions are the main headlines of them. We have two of them are nouns and one is going to be a verb. So, in this particular case, the first definition of pawn, it says, one of the chessmen of least value having the power to move only forward, ordinarily one square at a time, to capture only diagonally forward, and to be promoted to any piece except a king upon reaching the 8th rank. So, making it to the next side, over the other side. Number 2, it says, one that can be used to further the purposes of another. So, a pawn. One that can be used to further the purposes of another. Now, the second other whole definition of pawn that has the few under it. It have, first one, something delivered to or deposited by or with another as security for a loan. So you go to the pawn shop. It's a place too, but pawn. Give it off. B, hostage. It's a pawn. Someone that's held hostage is a pawn to get some type of means. Second part, the state of being pledged. Come back to that one. The state of being pledged. Number 3, something used as a pledge. So a guarantee. So, okay, I'm going to give you all of this here. If you're not satisfied with it, you get your money back guaranteed. And the fourth one, the act of pawning. So we'll get into the last one, which is the verb. The verb, to deposit in pledge or as security, especially in exchange for money. It's the pawn, the act of pawning something, to give it off to get some money for it. I used to think there used to be a show called Pawn Wars, if I'm correct. But yeah, I haven't watched TV in a while, so don't get me on any of that if I got it wrong. Or Pawn Shop, it was probably called. But yeah. Now, second website, free dictionary. If it's the same things, it's the same things, but I just want to get other sources. So, on here it says pawn, to deliver personal property to another as a pledge or as security for a debt. A deposit of goods with a creditor as security for the sum of money that is borrowed. In common usage, pawn signifies a pledge of goods, as distinguished from a pledge of intangible personal property, such as a contract right. In a more limited sense, it denotes a deposit of personal property with a pawnbroker as security for a loan. A pawned article is retained until the loan is repaid within a certain time. If it's not repaid on time, the pawnbroker may sell the item. Another one, it's the verb. To pledge an item of personal property as a security for a loan with the property left with the pawnbroker. Again, there's interest that's going to go into it, but we'll leave it there. Another one, pledge. We've seen before. And that's really it on here, because there's only a few. But again, that's pawn. If y'all have something down for it, I appreciate you sharing it. But yes, now where are we going to go when we're talking about legally pawns? So, when writing down this particular word, this particular phrase, peace and love, I was thinking of course, I started off with the whole concept of people talk about playing chess or playing checkers, not chess. Or a flip of that, where people are, all they do is playing checkers. They don't know how to play chess. But the whole concept of what a pawn is on the chessboard. And shouts out to the brother MC0, peace and love, my G. What's the word? And understanding what the pawn does on the board, while at the same time figuring out, okay, what is the purpose of the pawn? So not only what it does, but also what's the purpose behind it. So that made me start thinking, and that's when I came with the whole thing legally pawns, because then I also started thinking about legally bond having to do with the law, and how, again, the law is very, very fluid in the sense of there's a lot of loopholes that can be used and played at any moment of time to argue or prove anybody's point if you know how to read and how to properly use the law. So my whole concept with this legally pawn stuff is that if you don't know it, most of us already do know it, that literally we work for the government. We work for the system. We are the cogs in the system that continue to make this place move, to make the economy work. So the working class, but just even the everyday citizen, we're pawns in that sense. Because of the fact of a lot of us were only able to move very, very, I'm not going to say very slowly, but in a sense of one step at a time. Not a lot of us are sprinting. When you think of it in that sense, I think of generational wealth and already starting off with having money. That's old money versus new money. But literally, you having one foot in trying to get things done, but then you're also still having to worry about house, car, you know, if you have children, family, expenses, food, shelter, all of those different things. And sometimes even moving forward, there's going to be a multitude of roadblocks. And in the game of chess with a pawn, it is only able to continue to move forward. And if something is actually in the way blocking the pawn, it is actually at a stalemate. It cannot move. It cannot move until there is some movement, at least diagonally. And when we're talking about moving course diagonally, that's being able to sidestep particular problems and issues and trying to continue on into a different lane. But most of the time, everybody's trying to stay in their own lane. But when you get blocked playing in the game and there's no other ways to go, you're going to be sitting there for a while. So going back into thinking about, okay, legally pawns. Okay, where you still legally pawns, I still don't get it. By law, and by how we've already described in these definitions with what a pawn is, especially the second definition under it, it says the state of being pledged. What do we usually do when, especially if y'all were in school, or if y'all are still in schools, especially around the U.S., sometimes they start off the day, if you call it the early day, with what? The pledge. And what are you saying? You pledge allegiance to what? To the flag of the United States of America. By definition, you are a pawn because you've already pledged. It says the state of being pledged. So you've already pledged your allegiance to the United States. So at any moment in time, the United States can use you for any type of leverage that they can use you for, dispose of you in any moment of time, and continue with the game. Because I've said it before. Many have talked about it before. That this life in actuality is a game. Many people see it as a chess game. Learning to be strategic. Learning to move around and create opportunities for yourself. But at the same time, showing that at any second, the system could just be like, you know what? That's it. We are done with your services. We need you no further. You're good to go. And it's because of the fact that you pledged. I'm not saying, oh, you can stop pledging, whatever it may end up being. Become, some people want to say, not only revolutionary, but also they call them heretics, or all these different names. But just letting you know, legally, we would be called pawns because of the fact that we've already pledged to something. And especially, too, if we go even further into that, because of the fact that we don't all fully legally own things, all of that could be taken away from us, just like a pawn. Again, where we deposit, we put money out for a particular item, and if you do not pay on time for stuff, that item can be quickly taken away. So, legally, again, we are pawns. Now, where does that leave us? Well, that leaves us with a number of different options. The main thing is first being aware of this stuff. I'm not saying I have the full in depth of, oh yeah, this is how it is that you're a pawn. This is what you can do, how things are exported, etc., etc. No. But I'm just making, again, my own personal observation of looking at words, how words are used, how they're stated, how you add them all together in the context of a sentence, and figuring out, okay, what does that all fully mean? So the first part of this is just really getting down the awareness of it. And then the second is just doing the research and applying the research as you're living. So if you're having these experiences and you're noticing, okay, at any moment in time, my employer can drop me without any notice or any given reason, which you've already signed up for that. You've already pledged to that job. If you already signed off and put your name there. It said at any time you can have just non-reasoning termination of employment. You are a pawn. But to take a pawn break, let's see what's going on here. It says, yeah, Indian ban export of all rice. Okay. So yeah, all that food. Yes. I see where you're going with this. Peace and love, peace and love. What's the word? But since you are there, I'm gonna keep with this concept too of being on a chessboard because it's a game. Since you are aware that you are this pawn in this game, you now know the awareness. Now it's learning the movement, which we've already was speaking about. That on the chessboard, a pawn can only move forward unless another pawn or another piece is diagonal from it. Then it can move diagonally, moving into the other lane. Now, what can those pieces signify? It can signify a number of things. In this particular system that we in, that can signify, again, capitalism at its finest. And when we speak about capitalism, again, you have to capitalize. That means when you capitalize something, that means something is bigger. It's more profound. Or you're capitalizing basically means that somebody has to lose. Somebody has to be above the other to capitalize off of, to get the advantage of. And in the game of chess, that's one of the main strategies, is being able to set yourself up, not only with the pawns, but how you move things to gain a literal advantage. Because the more pieces that you have at the end of the day that you can work with, whether if it's your power pieces, whether if it's still a number of pawns that you can use as sacrificial pieces, you create that leverage. Now, with knowing how that setup is made and it's done, okay, how do I go about making my movements and making sure that, again, even though we can be seen as legally pawns, what can I still do within the confines of the system? Now, again, going back to all of this stuff, yeah, it said pawn like pawn shop or being pawned or like pawn like on a chessboard. So there's a number of stuff. I know you missed out already on my G, but I'm going to reiterate a little bit more for you. And then, I mean, you're more than welcome if you want to pop on. But in a sense of, again, the action of pledging your allegiance to the U.S. is already showing that you're a pawn, because of the fact that one of the definitions in itself said the state of being pledged. So you're pledging yourself to something already. You are a pawn in at least the definition sense. Now, legally, again, when you also put yourself in a situation where you are pawn, is a lot of the stuff that you don't necessarily own. And if you don't pay on that stuff, you lose it. I'm just going off of the definitions that are given here. The other thing that I can think of, and don't quote me on it, I'm still learning as I'm going, as I'm receiving information and looking up information. Shouts out to my brothers, my family that's up in the building. Peace and love to y'all, man. Good to see y'all here. I see you, John. I see you, Reflection. Much love. Thank y'all for popping in. What's the word? I see it's in the sense of, again, this is just me still figuring all this stuff out. There's also reason why when we put our names onto federal documents and other particular very, very legal documents, our names, every letter of our name is capitalized. And the reason being that part of the reason why that our names are capitalized too is because of the fact that we are already identifying and being seen as a business, just who we are. And again, when you're in a business, not only a business of your own, but if you work for someone, a CEO, anybody in particular, again, you already pledged to being within that group or within that job, within that source. And at any moment in time, when your work is done, your work is done. You do not have leverage to work other things out. That's why people talk about when you do go into a job or you're going into a particular place, not only having leverage, but also being irreplaceable or having a skill that, again, they can't find in every other run of the mill of people who also get hired. So, I mean, I'm throwing it in a loop of a number of different things because I'm just, again, I'm spitballing and just putting pieces together to figure out, again, why we are legally pawns. Because in the legal sense, especially when you've already put your name on legal documents, you've already pledged yourself to be in a particular place. And from one of the definitions of pawn, if y'all want to look at it, y'all look it up. It says the state of being pledged. So again, there. So then we are legally pawns because we pledge. What do we pledge to? We pledge to the allegiance of the flag of the United States of America, or pledge to a job. Anything that you are pledging yourself to, that's what it is. He said, to quote Goodfellas, F you, pay me. Basically, in that sense of, at the end of the day, that's what capitalism is. I need my ducats. I need my money. However I'm going to get that, you are going to get that. We spawned as pawns from the beginning, from the birth. Honestly, again, like I said, don't quote me on this, especially with research and a multitude of different stuff. But also, that's what our birth certificate, supposedly, our birth certificates, not only because our names are still capitalized, but supposedly our birth certificates are basically, we are owned by not only the state, but we're owned by the government. We just a number. Yes, we are just a number. And again, because of the fact that that's the case, why do you think when we identify, what about your birth certificate? Exactly. We are just a number. With your birth certificate, it's the same thing. It's almost as if that is your receipt. And the receipt in the sense of they already owned you. And because they own you and have that document and receipt, at any moment in time, they can trade off that receipt to a whole nother different place. In this particular case, we're in North America, in the U.S. They decide to trade off all this different stuff, again, between different nations and different countries. They can do that. And without you even knowing, like there's so much legal jargon and words that we don't fully understand that is happening around us, that it has a super impact on us, and we don't even know. We don't even know where necessarily it leads us to or why a lot of things are happening because of the legal definitions and understanding of the law. It says, and the U.S. is technically a corporation rather than a country. Exactly. Again, it has a president. What's a president? It is a CEO of a company. Spoke about it before numerous of times. Again, what we see happening on a smaller level has a huge impact on a bigger level. So anything that we are slowly connecting here, you get a sense of seeing how it actually is in real time. Presidential elections, the mayor, all of this stuff is closely intertwined together. So coming back to it again, we are legally pawns, not only because of the confines of the system and the ideal of capitalism, but when you pledge, you have put yourself in the state of being a pawn. I haven't talked about it in the sense of too being held hostage and people use hostages as pawns to get leverage for something. But again, remix it in any way, shape, and form that you want to. But we use the metaphoric example of chess because like I said, the reason why I'm keep reiterating this stuff is because it keeps showing up. People keep using, again, the whole idea of playing chess, not checkers. And why does that keep coming up? Because of the fact with all these different names. I mean, we can put names to all of the different chess pieces if we wanted to. At least off the top of my head. I could be completely wrong. But again, the pawns, that's us. It's the people. That's why we're out in front. We're basically on the chopping block. We're the ones on front. We are the front main line defense to a system. Especially if we think about in the sense of a war too. Because right now we are at war with ourselves. For real. If we want to talk about the rook, or some people like to call it the castle, but it's also the rook. That's literally the outsides of the confines of the system. Some people say, again, it's the building. So then the whole idea of capitalism can be the rooks. Again, I'm just playing this by ear right now. I could be completely wrong, but this is just me breaking it down myself. The knights in itself can just represent any type of governmental force that is to either serve, protect, or to watch over us, which in this particular case, that ends up being the military, the police force, the fire department, etc. Those are the knights, quote unquote. Those are the knights. Then we had the bishops. The bishops, when you think of who a bishop is, especially if you think about it in the church sense, these are our officials. These are our people that are higher in, status. It doesn't necessarily need to be religion, but I just said it right now with them being officials. So that has to be with our government. So we're talking about a lot of the different GOP. We're talking about our senators. We're talking about Congress. These particular folks can be seen as the bishops. In the way that they move too, they're only able to move diagonally. When you get into the world of politics too, not saying that you have a multitude of different movement, but once you are stuck in one particular ideal of something and you're only seen as that particular ideal, it's very hard for you to try to sway in any particular way. So you have to keep going in that particular line. So again, bishops are moving in a diagonal. And then that's where you come to, and there's two pairs on both sides. That's why you have a left and a right. Again, left wing, right wing. That's why there's rarely anything about a green party, a neutral party, any other parties outside of the independent party. Any parties outside of that is usually only Democratic and Republican. So there's a left and a right. And then there's a black and a white. But we're not going to get into the colorism of all the stuff too. And then you have the queen. In this particular case, I'll be honest with you. The queen can represent a multitude of stuff. Me thinking about it right now, and y'all can also help me out on this. When I'm thinking about the queen in particular, what can I liken the queen to when it comes to how we're doing this system and stuff? I wouldn't even necessarily put the president there, because the president is not the most powerful piece. Some people say that the queen is the most powerful piece on the board, which I would say it is the most versatile. It is able to move in all different areas. Besides, it cannot copy and do what the knight does, which serve and protect in this particular case that we're using. But a knight moves in the L shape. The queen can only move forward, backwards, diagonal, as many spaces as it has room to do so. But so what am I thinking about someone that can't do exactly what they do, but then they do theirs? Honestly, I don't know why. I started thinking about I think about all the billionaires and all of the people who, again, own most of the wealth, which some people might say that that's actually the king in particular. But I'm just going to say those folks are the quote unquote queens because of the fact that they're so versatile that they can move in various different ways. And you're not going to catch them being out on the front lines doing anything like the police, the military, as well as fire department, any type of, again, governmental forces that are there to serve and protect. So I'm saying the queens are the billionaires, all those folks that are just out there trying to innovate and do other different things, as well as just hold on to money and not do anything about that. We can even talk about the celebrities being that too. So Queen isn't a person, it's the system. Again, like I said, play with me. I'm just spitballing off the top. It's just making sense to me in particular. Because I'm saying the whole culmination of this game is representing the system, a system versus different systems. I mean, again, we're not talking about how it's a democratic republic in various other different places, because then there's monarchies, there's I'm gonna say hierarchies, but again, there's different types of rule and regimes around the world. So I wouldn't say it for me. The whole idea of playing that game in particular is system versus system. So all the pieces together is the whole system being the pawns and all the other different pieces. But I appreciate your perspective though. Saying the queen protects the king sounds like the power behind the throne. Mm, mm. It's a great thought. Again, I'm just figuring out what. But yeah, and then the king, yeah, throne is the power. Throne in the sense of, are now we talking about kings and queens? Are we really talking about kings and queens in this particular case? Yo, yo, peace and love, man. Are we really talking about kings and queens in this particular case? Like for real, people want the throne or to conquer, but it's an idea. Can be for real, it can. But man, now you're making me think. Now, who's particularly the king? Yes. Well, I'm gonna say it. Y'all will be like, wait, what? Because I'm getting now. You guys are giving me these ideas to say the queen protects the king. Sounds like the power behind the throne. Yes. In this particular case, the king is actually the president. Again, because it's the one that's out in front. That's the person that we've seen. It's the head. It's the one that once they get jeopardized, supposedly the game is over. You know. But in this particular case, it's checkmate. Once we put the king, aka the president, in a very huge spot, again, there goes the nation in that case. And then I mean, for us, it's been a laughing stock for the last 10, honestly, for me, 10 years. But there's even longer than that when it comes to presidential races and all of that stuff. Um, but that's how at least I signified it, and all together they all come together to create this system, and in our particular case, the U.S. system. So for us being the pawns, the rooks being just the structure, basically capitalism, the knights being any of those particular governmental forces, whether it's the fire department, the military, policing force, those are knights. The bishops are all the politicians and those particular officials, whether it's Senate, the Congress, Republicans, those particular folks, those are bishops. The queen is all the billionaires and all the folks who have all this money, the upper echelon, 1%. They're the ones that are the queen. And then lastly, the president itself being the king. And all together, that's the game of chess. And in our particular case, the U.S. system. So again, or to clarify, we are legally pawns not only because of the fact that we stated and we pledged our self allegiance to this system, but at the same time, in a legal sense, when you sign your name onto any type of contract, as well as sign your name onto any official document, you are basically giving your service to a particular place in a particular system, and you are not only looking for, again, to get paid, which in this particular case is talking about you getting paid, but at the same time, you are making the system move. So you are the gears, but at the same time, you are the pawn. And again, on the game of chess, the only way for a lot of those other pieces to move, you must develop the pawns. But in some cases, you don't want to develop the pawns so much to a point where you create holes or spaces in your defense. So again, to use having that analogy put together, we're legally pawns in a sense of not only physically, but we are legally pawns in a sense of metaphorically speaking, legally, almost to a sense of spiritually. And then, and when I'm thinking metaphorically again, it's mentally, we can become those pawns because of the fact that it is a multitude of attacks and a multitude of ways that we not only pledge our allegiance to stuff, but at the same time move and power the system that we work in. But yeah, my whole spiel, my whole thought on it. But that's my basis on how we are legally pawns. But yeah, I just like the song that is playing right now. But again, the one that also popped out to me, and the reason why I say writing and then the contract says, in common usage, pawn signifies a pledge of goods as distinguished from a pledge of intangible personal property, such as a contract right. So again, it is important to not only read law. I don't fully understand law, but that's where reading, they say reading the fine print, where that comes from, reading the fine print is because of the fact that if you read the fine print and actually understand what you are reading, you will see a lot of the stuff that is written. There's a lot of play of words as well as a twisting of definitions and usage of words. Anytime you create a pact, it's the same thing. There's just so many different usages of words. I know also in the, not what I've heard, I should say, I shouldn't even say no, but in a legal sense of what a person is, let's see, legal person definition. I'm actually going to look it up because now I'm very interested. So let's see, legal person. This is based off of, let's see, it says Cornell University or Cornell. Let's see what it says. So, legal person. It says a legal person is a human or non-human legal entity that is treated as a person for legal purposes. A legal person is capable of engaging in all usual legal business that a real person can participate in, such as suing, being sued, owning property, and entering contracts. The concept of legal personhood is especially popular in business law, where business organizations, corporations, partnerships, limited liability, those are LLCs, companies possess legal personhood. As a result, these I think it is, there's statutorily created entities are able to be treated as legal distinct from their shareholders and officers. So even using the word person or a legal person, it don't even have to be a real person. It's a business. See, a legal person may also be referred to as a fictitious person or a artificial person. You see how confusing that is? So a legal person is not necessarily not only a human, it can be a non-human entity, or it's just a fictitious person or an artificial person. So even in legal definition, it's not the end all be all what this is the only definition. But even in this legal definition, you start thinking about AI and all this other different stuff. Technically, they can be people. Technically, they are people. Your phone, Siri, has a name. See, look, now I'm about to like go off into a whole nother tangent of stuff. But look, to reel it back in, the legal definition of being pawns, and even a pawn is an inanimate object. But think about that too, because we're talking about things. Again, we are legally pawns. If you want to look it up, you will find in some way, shape, or form that, again, we're not only tied to the system, but we are also dependent on the system. And at any moment in time, when our use has been, or when our usages has ran out, that's it. All right, you good. We appreciate your service. That's it. You good to go. Man. But yeah, y'all. I'm not gonna go anymore. So I want to get to the second part of speaking about all of this with talking about being legally pawns and stuff. But if y'all have any last thoughts on it that you want to share, please, more than welcome to put that there. You're welcome to go about and share more on this. But yeah, I'm not going to reiterate what I just said, but if you see what it is down there, you see what's already written down there. It said, and corporations are people according to the Supreme Court. Yes, I just read right now. Again, a legal person. It doesn't even have to necessarily be a human. It said a non-human entity, which they're talking about companies, corporations, a limited liability, which is LLCs. Again, it's just even showing more and more that the U.S. where we live in, it is a business. It is not a country because it is open for businesses and people who have businesses to run in this country. If you do not have a business, again, it's almost as if you are not a person. You are, again, a consumer, while at the same time, you are a pawn. You are leverage that are used to work for these businesses so these businesses can work for themselves, but at the same time legally state that they are people when they are entities, but they're all this mumbo jumbo. All right, before I go back into that loop, let's go ahead and let's finish with the last topic for tonight and the last question necessarily, I should say, for tonight, which the question and the last topic for tonight is, can we stand and deliver ourselves away from this system? You see what I did there? My folks who do not know, it's your first times, and I mean, you towards the ends of all these to have this be your first times, but I still appreciate you regardless. I set these topics up on purpose. They're purposefully put together. It's just not random. They play off of each other. So we was already talking about legally pawns. Now that's why we're talking about, again, this particular system. So again, can we stand and deliver ourselves away from this system? Can we do it? Is it a yes or no? Is it a maybe? Is it a mixture of both? Y'all let me know before I give y'all my own thoughts on this. And it says, and the entire city of Irvine is owned by Irvine Company. So they have more power than the city council. This place is a game of not only chess, but Monopoly and any other type of business game that you can think of. Because even the houses that you're either renting, paying off with a mortgage to own, you do not technically own the land that house is on. The city owns it. And even further than the city, sometimes it is a private business or, again, some multi-billionaire, trillionaire that actually owns that plot that your house is on. So they would also technically own the house because it is on that land. The reason why I think of that too is because when I also lived out in Seattle, I was learning about a lot of these different land grabs, and that there was this, again, billionaire that was in Seattle who owned a good portion of, I want to say, North Seattle. Again, don't quote me on this stuff, but this is what I was learning. So that's what made me found out, like, yo, even if I end up owning my house, I technically don't even own the land that is on it. That's why there was a whole big issue going way back when we even talking about all the treaties and things that were created supposedly between the U.S. and a lot of the Native Americans that were living here. And it's because of these natural resources and creating and taking and purchasing these natural resources, land and other different stuff, because of how valuable it was. Or honestly, it's so invaluable in the sense of there's there is a lot of it, but when you own some of it, you bring, again, a sense of power, the way that we play on this. But yeah, thank you for sharing that part in that comment. But to answer the question, guys can also, all of you can answer in the comments. Can we stand and deliver ourselves away from the system? For me, the answer is yes, 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 but it is at a high cost. And what do I mean? Yes, but it's at a high cost. Shouts out to Exquisite Trees. Peace and love, brother. Much love. Thank you for coming up in here. What's the word? So at any point in time, you, you have the choice. You, you have the choice to decide you don't want to be a part of this. You can do that. But how do you go about doing so? Become a hermit? Live in an uncharted place? Try to go join an indigenous group far off in different places that even the U.S. and other places of the world cannot go touch, but are trying to? You, you could. But we talk about the probability, the likability, all of that stuff is very low. The reason why I say it's very low is because of the fact that we've lost out the ability to have these survival skills. Not saying that we don't have these survival skills, but in the sense of, like, for real, you're on the land all by yourself. There are no food. There's no places for you to go buy food. There are no homes for you to purchase and buy because you're not using money. There is no convenience stores. There is no means of again, plumbing system. So again, running water, using, the restroom, and then also being able to find you a place and a space of land to inhabit. So you can do it, but it's hard for all those things that happen. Like the brother was saying here, saying that the cost is too high. I've seen some people who, again, did that. They've tried to live off grid, which people saying living off the grid. That's one of the things that they planned on trying to do, or some have accomplished and done so. But again, to what extent? I mean, we can also talk about other societies like the Amish that are still what people will say back in, the olden days of just how they run about doing and using their society. I again, the topics pop up when they pop up, so If it applies, it does apply. But at the same time of, again, having these instances and these examples, reason why I say that we're very dependent in this, in a sense too, is, and we lost out on the survival skills, is, I'll be even 100% honest with you. If I were out in the wilderness, I don't know how much longer I would survive. I know there was actually a show that they actually did that. It's not Men versus Wild, but there's a competition between women and men that actually went onto an island to see how long that they can survive, again, against the wilderness, Mother Nature, and all of that in themselves, to see how long that they could actually survive. Will I be willing to, again, kill animals to get my food? Will I be able to have the ability to build a shelter and create fire, find drinkable water? Because we've talked about it in previous shows before too. In the world, there's only about roughly 2% of the world's water is drinkable. 2%. So how do I know where to go find fresh water? I mean, you can say there's a spring, if you come across a waterfall, things of that sort. Also, what am I going to do with clothing? How am I going to end up having clothes? I'm getting bamboo leaves. What is this instance all coming to? I'm not wanting, of course, trying to take it to the full extreme, but really think about the whole idea of survival. A lot of the stuff that we have now, we are very privileged to have. I can come on here, literally be on my phone, talk to y'all. I have Wi-Fi. We have this technology. Literally, I have clothes made from different sources and places. All I have to do is use money in that to buy. We're not even back in the sense of like bartering. I'm working on wanting to start growing my own food, because at this point, the food that I'm seeing that's out in different places and buying, it's starting to make me just move away from like a lot of food in general. I already don't eat a lot. I'm only would be quote unquote considered pescatarian, but it's almost getting to a point where I'm like, what are y'all doing with these lab made meats and things of sorts? I'm like, okay, what else am I actually going to do for some food? As well as trying to find seeds that are not been tampered and messed with. It's a whole multitude of things. But going back to that, me being able to deliver and stand away from the system is going to come at a very high cost. And the thing is, you have to be ready and willing. And a lot of that can also be to someone's sanity or insanity. Because as humans too, we crave and we look for not, not only interaction with each other, but we are meant to live in groups. So that's why if you do, of course, you're not going to try to go off grid by yourself. Some people go crazy that particular way, but it becomes harder and harder when it's just only you. You won't need money. Right now, you're not going to need no sense of gas, but not in the sense of natural gas. But yeah, say I listened to this one on my route. Need to knock out for work. All good, my G. I appreciate you anyways. Thank you for coming through. And really learning to utilize what's outside of us to actually create. We don't do that anymore now. And trying to jump back into that primal state that we have of ours, that again, it is encoded in us, but to tap back into that, that's where they come to the point where it is a life and death. But I would say end up practicing that stuff, getting y'all some equipment, learning how to, again, maneuver and create stuff. If some people really look at how they play video games, sometimes you could pick up a skill from it and learn it. I mean, I'm thinking of Minecraft and other different stuff of that sort. But, and then for people too, if they playing Call of Duty, they think then they can go into the military and stuff. But those are not only just simulations, but being able to, when it fully happens, and put yourself in that state to be able to survive off of just the elements outside, we are not there. We have been babied. We have been coddled. When I'm hungry, I can go hungry if I want, or I could literally just pick up my phone, go on the internet, type for food to come to me. You got Uber Eats. You got deliveries for pizza. You literally got Grubhub. you got DoorDash, you got all these different apps, as well as you even got 7-Eleven. If you're here, if y'all know the 7-Eleven, you have a 7-Eleven that has apps that also can also do literally home deliveries. All different places now are doing home deliveries, not only because of what happened with COVID, but even prior to that, because of the fact that it just makes it easier to get to the customer, as well as now I ain't even got to leave outside my house for me to get food, which then also means that I ain't even got to cook my food and it just comes straight to me. I'm good to go. So it's like we got it made in a huge sense of what we're doing, and that's all here. So to try to leave away from that, it's a very, 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 very difficult thing for a lot of folks to even fathom, think about, or even attempt because of that.
Hello.
Yo, what's going on?
Hey,
What's the word?
what's up? What's up? Yeah, I was just saying that this topic, especially the question,
Yes.
right? It's this second topic that we have here. Can we stand and deliver ourselves away from the system? Is especially uh, relevant and timely for us Hindus
Mm,
because of this California Hindu phobic law SB 403, right?
yeah.
And so, like, what's happening is that Hindus are still very naive.
Mm-hmm.
Not all Hindus, but like a significant percentage. And and part of the reason is because they've been excluded from a lot of social justice
Yeah.
spaces. So like a lot of Hindus still don't know the language,
Mm,
right? And so they make mistakes because of it. But the other thing is like since this bill passed bipartisan, okay?
okay.
But it passed in a Democrat majority, House and Senate, right? And then every person who voted for it, um, all the Democrats voted for it. There were a
Yeah.
few Republicans who voted no, and a few Republicans who abstained. And every no and every abstain was a Republican, right?
Mm-hmm.
So until now, the majority of Hindus vote Democrat because that Democrat, even though they have problems too, they align more with our Hindu Dharma, right?
Mm,
Uh, but now that in the Democrat majority, House and Senate in California, this Hindu phobic law has been passed, and I mean it's gone all the way to the governor. If he signs it, it will become law, right?
yeah.
So now Hindus are like they're so naive. They're like, oh, maybe we should just start voting Republican now. And I'm like, no, don't you get it? They both hate us. There's a dual play. There's a false
Mm,
binary. This whole left, right, Democrat, Republicans, right? They both hate us. Like they both hate us in different ways, right?
yeah.
One is more overt and one is more covert, right? The the Republicans don't mind calling us demonic or whatever because they're very fundamentalist Christians, a lot of them, right?
Mm,
Uh, Whereas the Democrats and other, so-called liberals and leftists, uh, they do it in a more covert way because they don't want to be called racist, right? So they will never like call you the N word or in our case the S word, which is calling us savages, right?
mm-hmm.
They'll never do that because they feel so morally superior to everybody else, including other white people, right? That they don't ever want to be called racist, but they still want to be racist, right?
Yeah.
So they do it in a very covert way where they will question your competence, for example. So in social justice language, that's called microaggression, right?
Mm,
Or they will paint a narrative and a narrative that presents you as a fascist. That's what they're doing to Hindus. They're presenting Hindus as fascists and fundamentalists, right? Which is just the modern day word for savage. It's the same thing,
mm,
right? But they don't even use the word fascist. Or sometimes they do actually, they straight up use the word fascist, but only after painting the narrative, painting the story, right?
yeah.
They know they can't call us savages anymore. I mean, they still can because they still have all the power, but they don't want to look like a racist, right? So they're the same. Like, Republicans are kind of even, I don't even know who's worse at this point? Like, is the one who openly tells you you suck, is that worse, or the one who is like hiding that dagger, right? Like, who is worse? Like,
They both trying to set you up regardless.
right, yeah,
Really bad. But no,
yeah,
thank you. No, thank you for that update and the thought behind a lot of that. That's why it's important that in any way, shape, and form, like what you're doing right now, is bringing the awareness and attention to laws and bills of this sort, because that's another important piece for folks. If they're willing to live in this
right,
system, then you should know
right,
about this system.
right. We should know because we should educate ourselves, right? What's happening with Hindus for right now is, for example, there was an organization that represents Hindus. Like, there's quite a few, but this particular one that is more prominent called KONA, which is an acronym, right?
Okay.
COHNA. And they, like, a few months ago when Supreme Court ended affirmative action, right?
Okay.
The KONA organization tweeted out celebrating the end of affirmative action, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so again, that's the naivety, right? And it's making some black activists mad, and now they don't want to help us because they're like, wait, these same organizations were celebrating the end of affirmative action, right? Uh, so there's not a fight because now they suddenly want our help, right? But what happened was, uh, for those who don't know, right, affirmative action was because they don't actually want to be anti-racist. It's not the way of doing the whole diversity thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and and first of all, it helped white women the most, right? Um, like for example, even the Black Panther premiere. I don't know if you know this, but uh, they didn't invite black women to that premiere. They invited white women and black men because that fits the diversity quota. Like that's the way these people think,
Hmm.
right? So yeah, so the whole I think it's a sham and affirmative action is part of it. But the reason why it went all the way to the Supreme Court was because Harvard University was discriminating against East Asians, right? And these East Asians sued. And it wasn't Hindus that sued, it wasn't Indians, those East Asians, right? That sued and then went all the way to the Supreme Court, right? But the Supreme Court now has totally ended affirmative action altogether, right? So
Hmm.
now Harvard wins actually in the entire colonial system wins because they get to discriminate as much as they want. They can like admit or reject whoever they want now, right? So Kona was wrong to tweet that out. It's because they didn't understand the issue fully, right?
Yeah.
But that's the problem with the left now, where there's too much of this purity thing, where if you make one little mistake, then like you're like the most evil, demonic person in the world, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Such a huge flaw.
yeah,
Extremely terrible.
right. But in any case, like even affirmative action it helps some black and brown people, but it was mostly a sham, right? And then the Supreme Court even made an exception for military schools, right?
Hmm.
Even when they ended affirmative action. So the message is, if you are black or brown or indigenous and you're poor and you just want an education, right? Uh, then you got to be willing to kill other black and brown people in the global south. That's basically the message.
Again, become a pawn.
Become a pawn, exactly. Or a token. Like
Yes.
token is the worst pawn in the world. And this system,
Mm.
this white supremacist colonial system uses tokens as their number one weapon, their number one strategy.
Isn't that what they mean by the? I know the term that they use for Asians is the model minority. There it is.
Exactly. That's another thing that was meant to divide Asians from black people, right? And and then some Asians just take it on, right? They're like, even though it's not even true, and even though because that's also a racist thing because the reason why they call all Asians model minority is because they don't see a difference between different Asians, right?
Mm.
And the majority of those so-called model minority Asians are mostly East Asians and also like some Indians as well, right? But they're discounting Southeast Asians, for example, right? They're discounting like Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, which is my country, right? Indonesia, Malaysia, right?
Mm.
Like the Burmese people are actually uh, the poorest people in the United States. We have the highest poverty levels at twice the national average.
Mm.
The Burmese and also I think another group, the Mongolians, another Asian group. Uh, it might not be the Mongolians, I forget which one, but the Burmese for sure. Like,
You did speak about that before, yes.
yeah. And then the United States government, way back in I think the 60s and 70s, dropped 2 million bombs on Laos, making it the most bombed country in the history of the world. So Laotians are not necessarily rich either because of that, because not just the physical and economic destruction from that, but also the psychological and emotional trauma that they still carry.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the Agent Orange that they attacked in
Mm.
Vietnam, they attacked Vietnam with Agent Orange. And I have some friends who, after generation, their families are still like suffering from all the physical disabilities from Agent Orange.
Chemical warfare, y'all.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like, so the question for us Hindus, this is relevant. Can we stand and deliver ourselves away from the system? Can
Yes.
we really fight beyond the political system, right? Like, because now a lot of Hindus are saying, oh, we should start, running for like school boards and, uh, running like up and down the entire,
Yeah.
voting block, right? Like every position, like,
Yes.
but it's like, is that really a solution to like, to become political pawns, basically? Like,
Yes.
yeah.
It's either you with the system or you not with the
Because the
system.
only
Because
reason people they're gonna lift up and allow are tokens,
yes.
which are pawns. Like
Yes.
even Obama was a token. Like, he ran on an anti-war policy. He did some good things like the Affordable Care Act, which, my uncle and aunt are still being helped by that. Otherwise, they couldn't afford medical care at all,
Mm.
right? But he ran on an anti-war platform, right? And he ended up bombing
Sex.
six Muslim majority countries with 26,000 bombs.
Yeah.
And then Hindus are also being caught in another token trap. A lot of them are supporting this Republican candidate, Vivek Ramaswamy, right? And Vivek is either a confused Hindu or what some people call a crypto Christian.
Mm.
Is crypto Christian is a Trojan horse. Is somebody who's actually Christian but is pretending to be Hindu or any other group that they want to infiltrate.
Mm.
No. And because whether he's either is he himself has made it very clear by his own words that he stands for Judeo-Christian values. Like he himself has made that statement, and a lot of his uh, talking points are very like he's very anti-leftist and anti-liberal. Right there,
Yeah.
he says there are only two genders, which is transphobic. He says reverse racism is racism, right? Which is of course not true because reverse racism is not a thing.
Yeah.
He is pro fossil fuels, pro gun rights, pro NRA, like anti-gun control, right? Uh, so these are all very like Republican, right? Policies, right?
Yes.
And so when Hindus lab it up, it's not all Hindus, but there's a significant percentage, right? Uh, it traps us even more in this image that the left wants to paint us in, that we are fascist fundamentalists who don't like respect people's rights, things like that. We get even more trapped in that image. And Hindus, on the other hand, they're lapping it up because, again, of that being naive, they're buying his rhetoric and his narrative that he's trying to unite people, right? Which, by the way, is the same rhetoric that Obama did. In fact,
Yeah.
Vivek Ramaswamy is literally, like, in some ways, plagiarizing Obama's language. He even said I'm a skinny guy with a funny name. That's exactly what Obama said. So it's like he's literally groomed to like for years and maybe even decades to be where he is now.
So
Right?
he Obama clone at this point, you saying?
Yeah, basically he's like, and he's like third, like in the
Yeah, he's
Republican race, he's like
yes.
third. He's like after Trump and like Ron DeSantis, he's
Hmm.
the third guy in line, right?
Man, yeah, I've gotten to see a back and forth between him and Al Sharpton, which was very interesting to watch a piece of that. But in all terms of putting this into perspective, to ask you, because I know you're speaking from it, for in the Hindu sense, and for those you're speaking on that. What is your answer to this question?
I think, we have to find a way beyond the political process.
Hmm.
We have to do a lot of grassroots education, for example, right? Because half knowledge or little knowledge is a dangerous thing,
Yes.
right? Uh, that's how you end up with Kona tweeting, celebrating the end of affirmative action, for example, right?
Hmm.
And even in Mahabharata, uh, we have the story of Arjun's son Abhimanyu, who knew how to enter the Chakravyu, which is like a military labyrinth. It's like a labyrinth made with soldiers,
Hmm.
where if you get in, you cannot get out, right? Uh, and even to get in right to the center is difficult, right? You can get killed before you get. So Abhimanyu knew how to get in,
Yeah.
but he didn't know how to escape, because it turns out like when he was a baby in the womb, like there was a teacher who taught him how to enter, and he taught the mother how to enter as well as how to escape, right?
Mm.
Uh, and the baby being a special baby with divine powers, like he could hear it, right, and understand it, but the mother fell asleep during the second half when the teacher was trying to teach about how to escape, right? So,
Yes.
anyways, in the Mahabharata war, he ended up going in, but he ended up getting killed because he couldn't get out, right? So for us, that's a lesson that half knowledge is a dangerous thing, right? So
Mm.
like, so even with these petitions and calls that we've been doing to the assembly members, to the Governor Newsom, right? Uh, there's some progress, and a lot of that progress has more to do with the threats of lawsuits from one of the Hindu organization, right? That's why they keep amending the bill and making improvements,
Yeah.
right? So we've had some progress. But at the same time, like all of these calls and these petitions that we do are only going to be used to even paint us more as fascists, right? Because now they'll be like, oh, look at all this opposition, right? Look at all these people who, are against the end of caste discrimination, right? That's the narrative. And so you can't win through the political process. You have to fight a narrative war. You have to like counter the culture war. So like grassroots education and then fighting a culture war or narrative warfare, like those are like one of the key things outside the political process. Like,
Okay. So yeah. So in a political sense, there's a need to again fight outside of that.
yeah.
I appreciate that. And what's going on, Mr. Dallas, aka Chairman Dallas, my G? What's the
Hey,
word?
what's going on with y'all,
What's
man? How y'all doing?
up?
Mr. Conan, Mr. CJ Avis himself.
That's man. Yeah,
Y'all talk,
we in here talking.
y'all talking about politics? Is that what y'all talking about?
I mean, we started with system, and we were talking about being pawns and what that was all meaning. So yeah, man, we talking about it's political talk, but at the same time, this is the everyday thing because you living in it, so you might as well know about it. And it ain't gotta be political, but people say the personal is political. So at this
Hmm.
point, everything it can come down to a political sense, to the words that I say, to the clothes that I wear, to the foods that I decide I want to eat. So in the sense, and the music I listen to.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So yeah,
That's that's a good point. You know what's so ironic about this conversation y'all having?
what?
I just did a whole paper today on democracy
Uh, oh
Mm.
wow.
and the social classes, religion, and all these things that tie into. I get that might be what y'all talking about, but that's so funny that y'all talking about politics, and I'm just doing that today. But that's funny.
Yeah, man.
Like don't
Because it is again, it's an important topic to bring to people's awareness. Because, like I said, each day in day out, we're in some way, shape, and form politicized. So we gotta get this all intact. So for me, again, I already did speak on it. Can we stand and deliver away from the system? For me, yes. But
that, that
two,
depends on. Oh my bad. Go ahead, brother.
I'm just gonna say yes, but again, this is where we have to start talking about timing, resources, intention, and ability. For me, if you don't the timing, this is not gonna be done overnight. We ain't gonna have a whole new civilization and other thing outside of the system built in one day. That's not happening. So this is all the timing. And when I think of also having the ability to do so, I was speaking on it earlier. If you're not able to, again, survive, because we talking about if you're going to try to go against all that's there in the system, that means you right now you're not going to be having no Wi-Fi. You're not going to have all of these amenities that you're so used to and accustomed to having. You're not going to end up, of course, being able to go down to your quickest fast food spot to go get you food, or have again the ability to create your food and things of that sort. You're gonna have to end up roughing it. I was talking an example earlier of there was a show that was done where there was women and men on an island and seeing who would be able to again survive against all the different elements of the island. And for the women in particular, unfortunately, they had to stop theirs abruptly because they were about to, again, they're all going to die because of the fact that it was hard for them to end up finding drinkable water. They were extremely always cold. They weren't able to suffice have enough food to eat. So then they're, of course, they were losing weight, but at the same time, a lot of different parts of their body was starting to fail, like their kidneys, etc. It was coming to a point where yeah, there was like, if we continued this contest, all y'all were going to die. And then the men, on the other hand, again, in a group, I'm not talking about solo. Solo dolo is a whole different story. But the men in the group were able to thrive. Were able to, again, go out there, get them food. They already were able to create shelter. They had fire going. Everybody ended up having a particular job and thing to do. So everybody was able to delegate and then literally survive the wits of that stuff. So for them, it was like easy, like, all right, I'm right back into it. Let's get it. So when I'm thinking of, again, the ability to do so, we've been, again, I say coddled, babied, and we've been domesticated to a point where all of this stuff, if you were to just throw us out in an island for some of us and be able to come and do all of that stuff,
Oh,
it would take a long time to try to adjust to those
y'all
things.
feel yeah. We call that raw nature. Like growing up, like when I started working out with certain people on my workout journey, on my
Mm-hmm.
fitness journey over the years. Because I started working out when I was like 12, right? When I was 12.
Mm.
So I would say like around the time when I was about 18, not 18, uh, whatever, however old I was in 2019, 2018, I started to meet a lot of people on this fitness journey. And one thing I noticed was just one thing, right? Everybody wear gloves. I never was taught to wear gloves.
Hmm.
So I would always just work out with my hands. Like whatever we do,
Yeah.
this is how I came. And that set me apart from a lot of people. Like I'm using my actual strength. Cause I think about it, I'm like, if you're doing something in real life, you ain't gonna always have on those gloves. And if you do, hey, you wearing them things all the time. But it's just it's a thing, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like it's too much. Another thing was like people would need music to work. I just posted something funny like this on my story right now. So if y'all want to go watch that and
Boy, if you
comment,
don't.
it's funny though. But no, I just said why I'm seeing all these videos where people are wearing headphones at the gym. It's like they can't work out without music.
Yeah.
But that's another thing playing into that course of how we do things and what we would be able to do without and with.
Yes.
I think for some women, the headphone thing is just to make sure like nobody talks to them, like especially men. I think that's part of it, at least for some women that I've heard them say that. So,
Oh, what? I was talking about the fellas, man, specifically.
okay.
I keep seeing dudes,
Oh,
man,
the fellas? Okay.
these big old dudes at the gym with these little head. I'm like, what is y'all doing?
Oh,
but
oh, them? Yeah, that's weird. Yeah.
not yet, because most times I don't even think I see shorties with headphones on. I mean, it's occasional, but yeah, man. But yeah, man, that thing is funny in itself. But and it's funny. I really want to touch on that show that you
Hmm.
talked about too, because that show I looked at it, man, and that was what's so interesting about it is I think that just shows the mind frame of like how you said solo and a group is different things, but also
Yeah.
just I think if you're an animal, you're gonna go out there solo or not, and you're gonna make something happen. Now, if you got other people, that just makes you a bigger type of or a different type of animal, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The show that I'm referring to is called The Island with Beer Grylls, I think, is it? Yeah,
Grills,
Grills.
grill.
Yeah, with Bear Grylls. So this was the season 2 that they were speaking about. But yeah.
And the woman, I remember that somebody mentioned that I was watching some podcast, somebody mentioned it, and that was the thing, and I was like, oh, that's, and I looked it up and looked into it, and I was like, oh.
But again, that's why I go back to that statement, and I'm speaking from that particular realm because the division, not only, or at least the ideologies between the left and the right, especially specifically folks who are liberal, when it comes to infrastructures, when it comes to different systems, it comes to different beliefs and again ideologies from way back when. A lot of those folks are quick to throw all of it out the window, leaving nothing there for the structure. And what I mean by that is, if I notice that a building or a place is still functionally sound, but there are a few pieces here and there that I would like to make some upgrades to and change, I'm not going to demolish the whole place just so that I can restart and then not even have the materials to know how to build it in the first place.
And you're saying that that's what the liberals would choose to do.
A lot of folks that I talk to on that side, Republican, I mean, again, we're speaking in terms of, in this case, the system has
Oh,
a multitude of people
y'all
in these
talking
ways.
politics,
Not only politics, I'm talking about in a figurative sense. So the
because
most people who complain about a lot of stuff that's not working, either one, they don't even have a plan in order of how they would do it differently. Two, if they do, most of them include destroying every piece of whatever system, policy, any type of foundation is set for that particular thing, which then for some of them leads to three, them complaining about now we don't have anything, y'all need to give us something. So to me,
uh,
it becomes a, not only it becomes a conflict, but it also ends up becoming, what is that? Not a conundrum. I can't even think of it right now. Right now. Why is the word escaping me?
They don't have a
But
plan for after the destruction.
yes, they
Which,
definitely don't. Huh?
by the way, ironically, that is what they do.
Yes.
This is like the chickens coming home to roost, right?
Yes.
Because this is their attitude towards other countries. Like, look at what they did to Gaddafi and Libya, right? Or
Contradiction.
even my own country, Myanmar, right? Look at what they did. They killed Gaddafi, but they had no plan for what will happen afterwards. And now,
Yeah.
like 10 years later, there's all these different armed groups fighting each other. There's no infrastructure. So when Libya started flooding, like so many people died and they couldn't really do anything about it because they had no plan for what would happen afterwards. Same thing in Afghanistan. They pulled out. They fought for 20 years, and then they pulled out with no plan, and the Taliban just took it over again,
Yeah.
right? And in Myanmar, we had 10 years of indigenous Buddhist leadership that they tried to destabilize by like maligning it and complaining and even, you know,
Mm-hmm.
trying to create a false equivalence between the leader, who was this indigenous Buddhist woman who was literally in under house arrest for 20 years under military dictatorship, and they
Wow.
tried to say she's just like Trump, who's a white billionaire, wannabe dictator. It's like totally different people, right? And they got what they wanted. The military did a coup in 2021, and it's just total chaos right now because the military can't even rule. Even I mean, the general who took it over, he can't even rule because nobody obeys him, right? There's civil disobedience all over. There's bombings all over. There's peaceful protests. There's also armed resistance. So like they leave destruction wherever they go, but
Yes.
now they're doing it to their own country now. It's the chickens like coming home to roost.
Yeah.
To
It's a oh, go ahead.
well, only thing I was gonna add is that it's so ironic. The paper I'm telling y'all, the paper I just
Mm,
wrote up today, they talked about Libya, they talked about Syria, South Korea, Argentina,
mm,
Bulgaria, all these. Because remember, if you guys remember what I said, I wrote on democracy and
mm,
citizens. So when
mm.
it comes to social class and democracy, that comes down to finances and then what is democracy and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So when I looked at all of these things and hearing what y'all talking about, I'm thinking to myself, because I first of all, let me let y'all know how excited I am right now. I just found out, and hey, some people might call me slow or whatever, but look, I ain't grow up on politics and all that stuff. I grew up in real life.
Yeah.
I just found out what a democracy is
uh,
and like the full depths of it and all this liberal and conservative stuff. I ain't know about none of this stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's funny that the places that you mentioned, like Libya, I think that's I forget what type of rule they were under, but they wasn't under a democracy. So they were under something like that's why you said, Kunin, that the Taliban was able to come in and take it over.
in
And it's
Afghanistan, yeah, yeah,
Afghanistan.
yeah.
So and it's because I don't think that's more so on the people. I think that's just on the leadership. And we just need better leaderships. And that's actually what I wrote on. I
Mm,
wrote a piece on, just better leadership and stuff like that. Because it's almost like the communist way,
You talking about
right? Like,
China?
huh?
You like China?
Yeah, that or no, Korea.
yeah.
It's
Okay.
no it's
You mean North
Yeah.
Korea, right?
Yeah.
yeah, Korea.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Because the South Korea is a democracy,
Yeah.
but North Korea is a dictatorship. Like,
right. And
yeah.
so when we look at those things,
Mm,
one of the things that's been known or that they want to say that is known is once people pass the socioeconomic threshold,
mm-hmm,
they're more
Yeah.
on they're more on a democratized point of view
mm-hmm.
versus what's the other one? What's the opposite of that? That would be like dictatorships and stuff like that,
Opposite of democracy is dictatorship. Yeah.
and
Dictatorship. Hmm.
monarchies and all that stuff. And oh, communists. So
Communist. Well, communist is more like an economic system. So communists can be via dictatorship or via democracy,
Democracy.
but generally communists are dictatorships.
Hmm.
I almost every country that became communist, as far as I know, was like was a dictatorship.
Mm.
But it doesn't have to be because communism is an economic system. It's not political. It's not
Yeah.
political.
Yeah.
I know I saw what Chicken Review
I'm
said. It's
sorry,
you
Y'all
still
gotta, y'all gotta, look.
you still
Shouts out
talking
to
about
Chicken.
that
I'm
after
Yeah.
several
hollering.
weeks. The chess.
Shouts out
The
to
chair of the
chicken and
Alabama
beef.
brawl.
Shouts out to chicken and beef. But yes,
Oh,
y'all,
holla,
It's good.
that is our resident troll and also protector of the comments. So again, sometimes try your best. Just read through, because again, you get these and then he gonna keep coming with more. But shouts out to chicken and
Yeah.
beef.
I mean,
Yo,
it's been
holla,
several weeks. Yeah.
Go ahead,
He
go ahead.
never gonna forget. He's never gonna forget. Bring it back up multiple times.
Uh,
Yeah, but yeah, that was a good brawl. Yeah. Now,
no, no,
was that
that was
communist or was that democracy or was it communist?
Oh my goodness. Were they standing up to deliver themselves away from the
hey
system
yo,
of the white
holla.
man? Like, no, I'm like,
That's why
no,
he
we not
threw the
trying to push
hat.
it.
He threw the
No.
hat, right? He was standing up.
Hey
Oh my
y'all wild
goodness.
for that one,
No.
That's
Why
like
yo.
a
we
bad signal, the bad signal, like when he threw the
that
hat.
it oh my goodness, man.
Nah, nah, but on the hey, is my audio still good?
Yeah, you still good.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Now, what I do want to touch on when it comes to this like whole democracy and all this
Mm.
stuff, I started to really look into it and understand why. First of all, I heard this saying a while ago, and I don't know where I heard it, but somebody said democracy is dead.
Well, I'll say this and then I'm gonna let you go back into it. Technically, the United States is a democratic republic. But what is a democratic republic? Y'all let me know the same thing, but we know what it can be. But go ahead.
Yeah, it
Now, fact,
depends on what kind of democracy, right? So ironically, Gaddafi wrote a book called The Green Book, where he criticized US democracy as not being a real democracy because it's a representative democracy, right?
Yes.
They call themselves a democratic republic, but it's really representative democracy, which is very different from direct democracy.
Mm-hmm.
Direct democracy is also known as town hall democracy, where citizens have a right to directly make
Yes.
change. Whereas in the United States, they do it through representatives, which is why we have the Congress, right? The House and the Senate, and then the president, which is the executive branch, right?
Yes.
Uh, and then Congress is the legislative branch, right? And then there's the judiciary, and so they call it checks and balances, right? So, but Gaddafi's main critique was that is instead of one person being a dictator, it's basically like in the case of the United States, like how many House representatives are there? Like 400 and something, right? 471 or something like that. And
Yeah.
then the senators are like 100 senators, right? So let's say 600, right?
Okay.
So instead of one person being a dictator, it's 600 people. So there's 600 dictators. So the power is shared, but still power is limited to a small group of people, to just 600 people
Mm-hmm.
ruling over 300 million people. So that's still kind of a dictatorship. So that's what his critique was, right? That representative democracy is not a real democracy because it's not direct. Like
that's called a direct. Oh, that's something that
it,
they.
that's
It's called
that's a representative
yeah,
democracy.
it's
Like
called a direct democracy, and they said that that's only in smaller towns. So like towns,
right, they're
uh,
saying it's not possible because direct democracy can only work in small countries and small towns and villages. However, with technology now, right, with computers and internet, we can have a digital direct democracy. It is kind of becoming possible, right? Uh,
Mm.
and then people are even talking about ranked choice voting, which is some cities are testing out as well in the United States. Instead of just like voting for one person with yes or no, you can rank who you want to vote, like one, two, three, right?
Hmm.
wait, say that again. You can vote what? Yes or no?
So in voting as it is in the majority of the United States, you either vote for A or B, right? It's yes or no. Like there is no, it's a binary, right? Like you can't, uh, but now, so it's like you give 100% to one person and 0% to the other people, right? Whereas in ranked choice voting, you can give like, say like 50% to one candidate, like 20% to another, say 30% to another. So that's why I call ranked choice voting. So
Okay.
that way there's more of a,
And where
they
did
say it's
and where
more kind of fair because there's more of like a power sharing kind
Where
of
is
thing.
that done at?
I forget, but there's a few cities that have tested it out. You can look it up, and they're kind of pretty successful at it.
And when it comes to all of these problems, yo, one thing I always
You
tell
always
people.
vote sometimes. How you gonna always vote, but sometimes? All right, cool.
Oh, I was like, I did
Hey,
not say
Nebula
that. But yo,
and
first,
Victor.
I've never voted, but one thing I want to say, like to Phase right here, is it's funny that you say blockchain because what I do is deal in the foreign exchange market, right? And the one thing I tell everybody is like, bro, we can't. I speak from a different point in life than most folks, you know. And the one thing I tell people is like, it's gonna always be a problem for another. I'd be lying if I'm the type of person to be like, yeah, we're gonna dwell in it. I'm with you, like, because if we just start the path to everybody getting the past that threshold that I wrote about and spoke about, I think that that's when real things can start to really shape and really happen. Because prior to that, you just talking. Everything is just talk, and everything is just idea. But
Yeah,
when you go out there and you put in the work like my stuff, and you see certain things happen, and even the things that I have not seen happen, just having a general idea of some things, I'm like, bro, all this talking, we just need to go out here, get the finances together, get the economic stuff together. And once you do, then we can go and
So, so I'm looking it up. Ranked choice voting is used in Alaska and Maine, in
okay,
addition to 53 cities and counties, representing roughly 11 million voters in the United States. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that and letting us know it too. Because again, these are look. I'm learning as we on here. That's what it is. We are building and we are learning at the same time. I do want to respond what you said, Dallas, but go ahead.
no, go ahead, cause I got a question about your event. Go ahead.
But okay. Um, but to your point, man, for us to even try to figure out a means of creating not only wealth but a pathway for us to not only sustain ourselves but be able to make these decisions and put in to say these leaders that you said that there is more it's more of an issue of the leadership and to put in the right folks in there again to the question that I have down there how I see it and again this is just my perspective. I'm not correct in any way shape or form. It's just my perspective. um the way that this system is set up is not going to be set up for the many to succeed. It is only for the few. So if you want to become a part of that extra few to be able to do that within this system, then I mean that's going to work. But at the same time, like what is your intention and intent behind it? Because how I end up seeing it is, yes, and I already went back to talking about the liberal aspect of it, but having action plans of if you're going to go about going outside of the system to create and be able to basically you run your own game, how you going to go about doing it in what particular way, shapes, and forms, especially if you have not acquired the skills? Are we still going to even be using any type of currency? Are we going back to bartering? How are we going to barter when we don't have any particular resources to share out and give to people? All right, now who's going to actually be doing this type of job versus that type of job? How will we be able to create this stuff if we don't have the material? So me, it's like creating all of those questions that it can be done. But the thing is, that's why I said the question says, can we? Not can you by yourself, not can I by myself. It's more so we because it is a collective effort. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to statistics, for change to actually happen, especially I know when I was doing my capstone a long while back, my senior project, for there is to be any type of statistical change, the percentage had to either be between one or even ranging all the way up to 10, especially if you're using, I forgot the program that it's called, where if it's, it's usually is usually between the numbers of 1 or -1. But any type of statistical positive that range towards 1, that already, again, it's significant in that state that something has happened. So for us to have that happen, it don't have to be all 100% of us in the system for that to happen. Because of course, the 1%, oh no, they definitely gonna want to keep it the way that it is because it's working the way that it is for them. Versus us, man, we only need about only 10, if not even 20%. Honestly, I'll be honest with you. If we get a good 5 to 8% to go against the 1%, like, bruh, look, percentage wise, numbers wise, it makes a lot more sense. But again, I'm just speaking out loud.
Cut off back on even that nip,
Yeah,
huh?
that's hard because the middle class in the U.S. has been taught that they're just temporarily embarrassed millionaires and billionaires, right? So a lot of people end up becoming either bootlickers or tokens or pawns, like you.
Like I said,
Yeah,
we are legally
yeah,
pawns.
yeah.
I stand by that. But go
To
ahead, Dallas.
piggy, you said wait really quick, Cooney. You said the middle class is millionaires and billionaires.
No, I'm saying the middle class in the United States have been taught that they are just temporarily embarrassed millionaires and billionaires.
Ah, well, it's funny that you say that. Before I segue to piggybacking off of your comment, because I told people today, I'm not I'm everybody has an opinion. I'm stating facts, and when I state facts, these are things that are one lived through, that the work has been done. So I'm telling you guys, and I told people earlier, there is no middle class. That is something meant to trick y'all, because when people get to that point of middle class, and in my example that I used earlier, I said, if even if you reach 200K, right, you're in the 1%. 200K net profit, meaning after everything, you're
After
into
taxes,
you're
yeah.
into you're into the 1%. But the problem is, even that statement here. Here's what I was saying. The problem is saying that we have to battle against the 1% when it's like we need to become the 1%.
All right, Agent Smith.
I don't know who that is, but
The
look.
Matrix, Agent Smith. So you become a part
I
of the
don't know
system. So
if 200K makes you part of the 1%. I'm not sure.
I'm
Like
telling you,
where are the stats for that?
this is what I do. So I'm
Like,
telling you, like, that's the numbers behind everything. Like, and so many people, and even just having that information that I'm sharing with you guys, so many people are unaware of this. So they think that that what they're aiming for, or that what they're striving for, is way beyond what's within their means, right? Or what they can do. And
yeah,
something that Diddy said that struck me the other day was, he spoke about how people get to that point of the mountain, on the top of the mountain, and he said it's only, I think he's, from what he said, I haven't done any research, but from what he said it's only about like 16 billion black billionaires in the world. But
mm-hmm.
one of the points that he made was, there's people that, yes, there are people that are successful that don't want certain things to change, which is what I agree. I've seen that firsthand in my own experiences, where I'm like, this person look like me, or this person came from the same place as me, but yet
yeah.
my audio bad.
No, no. You're good. I'm again responding. Don't mind me. You're good.
Okay. And when I see these things, and when I saw those things, I immediately had to pull myself away from these things, because I'm like, why are you doing this to make somebody else's life harder? Even myself, like, there's day-to-day actions and things that I do, and I have taken in, and I am taking, where I'm like, yo, how can I make life easy for somebody else? I know the things that I had to go through to get to this point, but how can I make this easier for somebody else to learn? But yes, I also instill that grit in my learning lessons as well, because I understand that is what's going to help you maintain that over time. Because if you don't have that grit in anything, that's where the lack of structure comes into play behind all of the issues that we have. So that's what I mean when I say, yeah, instead of thinking like the fight is between that 1%, become the 1%, become the change. Like I could sit here and complain day in, day out. Like even CJ, you seen me back when I first came out to the, to Kathy, and it's like, yo, I could sit there day in and day out and complain about how like I had to ride the bus. I ain't had no job, or I ain't had nothing. You feel me?
Yeah.
But it's like this man really watched me go from that to, bro, I got a nice place. I got nice cars. I got a nice career now too. I've been had a good career, but now my business venture where I'm able to help not just my family and other families, and while we're still working on other things. So when when we sit here and think like, yo, the problem is that they white and I'm black and they got the money, I don't got the money. They don't want stuff to become the change.
Yeah.
Why
So I
not?
looked it up,
Me too.
right? Like
I was looking it up too. I was looking
according
it
to
up
the
too.
economic policy. So now I realize we're using the word 1% very loosely.
Loosely.
It's not
Mm-hmm.
really exact because according to the Economic Policy Institute, the average annual wage of the top 1% was actually 819,324 as of 2021.
Yes.
Now, if you make 200,000, like Dallas was saying, that actually makes you the top 10%,
10%.
not
I was
1%.
going to say
And
that's
then
exactly what I was going to say.
and then if you make over 3 million or 3.3 million, that actually makes you the 0.1%.
Yes. Yes. I was literally going to end
That
up
means
saying those same
billionaires are
things.
more like
The 1%.
0.01%, something.
That
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah.
Ridiculous. But yeah, the whole concept behind a lot of this too is, again, how much are you willing to put yourself within the system to continue this particular system? I'm not saying you
Mhm.
need to
What
live. Of
are,
course, of course.
what are y'all source
Join.
income thing?
So,
Hmm?
quick Google search, man. You can go to investopedia.com. That's where I know Kundan
Yeah,
was
that's
looking
where
at
I
right
found
now.
it too. Yeah.
Investopedia. I went to Business Insider, but I will say this: I even was listening to not only other finance places, but I know there's also black. I think it's black demographics or statistics.com. They did the same thing because on average, if the average wage for Americans is close to about 50, almost if not 65,000, to me thinking if that was the average, if we're getting to close to about 100,000, I know for sure that wasn't going to be 1%.
But
I
not
was going to
holding.
push back
But
on you.
excuse me, you guys are hearing 65,000, but you guys missed what I said. They're not holding 65,000 in their bank account. I'm specifically saying 200,000 net profit after. That means after everything. Meaning the people that you're saying that make on average, let's say 50K, right? If they make
Mm-hmm.
50 to 65K, they don't have 50 to 65K at the end of the year in their bank account. Does that make
I know.
sense?
You
Yeah,
that
Yeah.
so I get where
you
you're
make
going, but
everything.
continue.
So that's what I'm saying when I say, because the key words that I said is if you make 200K net, meaning after everything, like some people they have to pay high taxes. Me, I've been blessed with my business. I don't, the way mine is set up, I got I get a lot of great benefits. So and what I do is all net. So I mean, besides the taxes and stuff like that. But so that means anything that you make after a certain point, that's your income for that year. That's you. We don't have to pay nobody. I don't have to pay my employees or nothing like that. My
Uh-huh.
people, they pay themselves, they get paid, they multi 5, 6 figure earners. So that's why I'm telling y'all, if y'all make over 200K net profit, that push y'all in that 1%, like real life bracket. But
but
go ahead.
but it I think the issue is, or not even the issue. I think it's just the definition that you're using.
Yeah.
I think when we're talking about the 1%, and we're talking about specific classes, we're using the government definition or the academic definition, and we go by gross,
Yeah.
right? So if you're netting 200K, you're probably grossing probably closer to 3 or 4, right? Give or take, depending on how you do your taxes.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody's right. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. Everybody's right. I just think it depends on the lens that you look at it.
Okay.
So, so yeah,
Rock with it.
like what you're saying isn't wrong,
Rock
but you
with it.
net 200K, but on your taxes, you're with that. What is it? Not GSI. I forget the acronym they use.
AGI.
Yeah, AGI.
The
Thank you.
adjusted growth. Oh,
Mm-hmm,
wait, no. Yeah. Okay. It just
It's
okay. Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
higher than that 200K,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah. So yeah, I think
But then
everybody's
also,
saying the
if
same
you
thing.
get good CPAs, they get you a lot of tax write-offs legally, of course. Like that's always my motto. Like one thing I learned from being poor and just being able to do what I do now is like I learned like, bro, I don't want no problems with nobody. Even in life in general, like, but I'm paying people off. Like if I got it, you got it. Like if I owe somebody or anything like that. So IRS, I always emphasize if you make money, pay your taxes, stay out of trouble. Don't yeah, it's ways to and I get it, it's a lot of stuff on the internet online that like it's all these loopholes and loopholes. Some of them loopholes come back and bite you. So make sure it's just regular stuff like, like it might be, let's say you pay rent. That's a way to get you a deduction sometimes or something like that. I don't know. I really let my CPA talk to me about some of this stuff, or most of this stuff, but like pay your taxes, man, because that's gonna pay off in the long run. It's gonna help you.
Yeah.
Facts. I think the reason why I was listening, and this is a great discussion, and it's something that I've been thinking about and writing about a lot over the past year.
Hmm.
So the issue is when you take somebody that's successful, such as yourself, when people say, "Oh, we're coming after, like we should do the 1% should pay more," I think there's a there's a dichotomy that we have to really look at. Okay, you being successful is not the problem. There are so many other problems systemically that we have to address. Black people making money is not the problem, and black people making money is not the solution.
Like this.
It's not. Black capital will not save us because black capital is not power. It's not enough power.
Yeah, because they still treat you as black even if you have a lot of money. Like,
The
Exactly.
bourgeoisie
yeah,
is a great example, or
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
black bourgeoisie. Yeah.
Who?
Yeah, like when Ryan Coogler was arrested when he was at the bank for drawing out a huge sum, right? And he's like the director of Black Panther, right? He's so like well known and stuff. Like,
And that's
Until
another great point that you made, Face, because that's a point that I wasn't able to touch on because I wanted to emphasize the income portion, but that's a great point because that's something that I'm aware of where I tell like my team, I'm like I've seen people come and go. Like I've seen people like you make the bread or you made a little bit back then, right? Versus my team now, where it's like I emphasize like, and it's something I've always emphasized. My man CJ know this. It's like, bro, I always say money is not everything. It's having great relationships with like my brother right here and other folks that I called it in life. Like that's the value that we really need as you continue to scale and reach new heights. You need the connections. It's the good relationships. Like no longer like it's not monetary though. I could tell you that the monetary it's all of your day-to-day stuff. But these other things, you need the connections. That's the real value system, man.
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah. Your spirit can't take that money with you. Your
nah,
mental can't. The mental can't take that money
Yeah,
with you in any way, shape, or form. So, I mean, bruh, the civilizations before then, our ancestors before all of this, and it don't matter from what creed, color, whatever it is. They knew that they couldn't take that stuff with them. They try to embalm it in tombs with them. They tried to be buried with this stuff, thinking it's gonna take it with them to the afterlife. But we know tangibly that's not the case. It's all up here, and it's all how you present yourself on the outside world for those things to happen. Because if you don't go out there and create an action, then how are you going to get a reaction from something?
Right. Then there's also what it takes to become a billionaire, right? Like when you look hear stories, or when you look at the fact that like Amazon founder Jeff Bezos made his employees pee in bottles because they want the shipping to be so fast, right? It makes you wonder, like, was he always like this from the beginning, or did he become this way because that is what it takes to make it over billions, right?
I don't think ultimately that it matters, because eventually to be that kind of successful, you have to exploit people.
Mm.
Somebody has to be taken advantage of. Somebody has to get a kickback. And I'm not saying it to be like
No,
negative. It's just the
just
nature. It's the nature of capitalism.
yes,
It's the nature of capitalism. It's the nature of the system. Somebody, unfortunately, has to pay the price for somebody to make money, for you to make money.
capital lies.
And that
Yeah.
and this is it's an unintended promotion of what I do, because it's not something like I'm just laying it on you guys. But just to keep it short, it's like, yo, that's actually why I love my business though. And I love it because I deal in the MLM. And for those who don't know, that's multi-level marketing.
Uh-huh.
And specifically, we launched our this company been around since 2014. They grossed over a billion, almost a billion in sales before we launched our trading side of the company this year in January or February. And what's so crazy about that is because I got tired of hearing that. I got tired of hearing, like, people used to tell me that on my way to getting to where I'm at now, and even like the things that I had to listen to, like people used to tell me like, D, like I had a business partner. He used to tell me like, D, you can't take everybody with you to the top. I'm like, fuck is you talking about? Excuse my language, but really, like, that was really my thought. Like, what are you telling me? I can't take everybody. And then I found something, like, I truly believe like God will present you with the answers, like, to everything that you need. You feel me? And one of the things was, I'm looking at a way like, bro, I want everybody to experience this. Now, granted, I do believe if you don't have the mindset, hell nah, you ain't gonna do it. I said people have came, people have left. There's people here that wasn't here a year ago, wasn't here 2 years ago, 3 years ago. My man seen it, right? But excuse me. One thing I can say is, one second.
You can say 1 second. That's what it is. I'm again not gonna speak on what's more. He detailing other things, but again, you have to really think forward and ahead of how would you properly set yourself up. Since earlier I was using the analogy of a chessboard in all these legal pawns, how would you set
Right.
yourself up on this chessboard to give yourself an advantage if you are going to find a way to deliver yourself away from the system if you're playing this game? And
Right.
if you
So
don't want to play the game,
Well, that's the
going
only
back
way.
to the question itself, right? Can we stand and deliver ourselves away from this system?
yeah.
Are you talking about as individuals or as a collective and a community?
So
It's
the question is for we, it's not for
and
I.
you and
So
you said
we,
and you said playing the game. I think the game. I literally wake up and thank God. I'm like, bro, I get to play the game of life. It's the game of life, and it's like, bro, you either gonna cherish the moment to become better. Like, I really stand firm on that. Like, yo, get better, build great relationships with folks, learn something from people, and improve yourself, because that's the only way to beat the game. You feel me? Like, it's no way, like, it's no shortcuts to life. Like, everybody wants the shortcut. But one thing I learned through discipline through my whole life with my family, with other people, mentors, anything, it's like, yo, even coaches, whatever, trainers, they taught me and I couldn't take no shortcuts. I had to do exactly A-B to get C.
Yeah.
And that's how you beat the game overall though, because that's how you get better at whatever game you're trying to play. So whatever game you playing, just look at the rules, look at what it take to be the best in that field, and you gonna come out on top. Like I don't care what it is.
Go for it, face, and then I'm gonna go right after you, but go for it.
Hey, FaZe, real quick before you say that, I like your light setup too, man. We got the lights.
Hey, you got the mood lighting. You know what I'm saying? You gotta do right.
Hey, hey, my man got the ladies over there. But hey, go ahead, go ahead.
I think, let me just say this, and it relates back to the question as it was posed. Can we as a collective somehow manage to leave this system as currently designed? No. We're too far deep. We're too ingrained. It's in our lexicon, it's in our blood. We've been indoctrinated before we are even in school, right? The way we celebrate our holidays in this country is a perfect example of that, right? But I won't get into all that. It's just and even the hustle mentality that we as people of color have adopted to survive and thrive is a symbol of that, right? It's okay for people to be successful, to make money in this system. It's okay for people to play the game, but the game is messed up because you could be anybody, and you could still, and because who you are, you have a higher chance of getting killed if something happens to you in a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
If you are trying to bring a baby of color into the world, the moms have a higher rate of dying from complications in birth.
Medical
That
apartheid.
Yeah,
that doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter where you are on the income scale.
yeah,
So there's parts of this where it's like, salute to you and for building a team and building a business and being successful and doing all that. That's dope.
Yeah.
But there's still mad issues. So we can celebrate people surviving and thriving
Yeah.
and really talk and deal with the serious issues at hand. What's happening
yeah,
with real estate in this country is a problem. What's happening with education in this country is a
I
problem.
spoke on it earlier.
and
Yes.
there's all these ridiculous laws too. Like they just passed a law in South
South
Dakota in
Dakota.
February, where if you in school, like if you're like of school age, right? If you're a kid in school and you miss school for 3 days or that just 3 times, you can be arrested. You can be criminalized and put in the school to prison pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's clearly targeted at indigenous children because a lot of the people in South Dakota are indigenous, and the people who tend to end up skipping school are indigenous children. It's very similar to the law that Kamala Harris made in California, where they were arresting black parents instead of the children. So it's like the other side of the coin. For the children skipping school, they were arresting parents. So you can't escape things like that even if you make a lot of money. Like yes, you can maybe hire a good lawyer, uh, but you'll still be put in the system.
Give me one. Hold on, real quick, Conan.
Like
So, hey, that's a real thing. Cause my mama
that's a
mentioned something
Yeah.
like that.
real thing.
She
Yeah.
That's a
told
real
me,
thing. That's a real
I
thing.
laughed at her, and cause she just know me. Like we raised different in our family. We see things different. But she told me she was like, she said one of my siblings wasn't going to school, and she was like, I'm not trying to get locked up for them not going to school. And I said, Ma, what is you talking about?
I got you. The reason why I got
Yeah,
you, I'm in the schools myself. I'm sorry. I have my what's it called? I have my PPSC, so I am a PSA counselor
You got your
by the work that I got.
what you got?
So it is called
Say
so
it
you
again.
know it's true, right?
it is called a pupil personnel services credential. So that basically means I can work in the school system K through 12. And what I can do is not only counseling or social work, but I also work with doing attendance. And so the thing with attendance within schools and this absentee thing is in schools, especially in California, because I don't know about anywhere else. I'm going to speak on California. There's 180 days that you're in school. Out of those 180 days, you are only given 10% of that time to miss. So 10% of 180 is basically 18 days, if not less than that. If you even in the first few months go past the certain percentage, because they're always doing the percentages. So right now for me, if I see any kids right now that have more than 5 or 10 days right now, technically they are chronically absent. So that basically means I will have to send a note home to the parents notifying them that if they continue to not bring their child to school, then it's going to have to be sent to what we call a SART, which is basically almost not the review board, but is a meeting where they have to have with the principal and all the other people that's involved about why we're not being able to come to school. Because if that doesn't happen, it goes to a board, which is the SARB board, and that's for review. And if you get there, they basically are like, okay, give us the reasons of why you've been missing and your child's been missing. And they're the next people to be like, well, now we got to take your child away, or they calling CPS, or they you can say that's neglect. That's technically negligence on the parents' half. So they can technically, the state can take your child because in California, I think between the ages of like 6 almost all the way up to about 17 or 18, you are required to go to school, whether if that is either homeschooled, public, or private.
Okay, Mr. Masters. Look, let me
There's laws. I mean, there's certain California penal codes and laws. I don't know them by heart, but I just know the gist of stuff.
and first of
Yeah,
all,
and then
And
they
just
just tried to
to
pass a
add
law
to
really
add to
like
that, I know what I can confirm what ad is because what ad is saying because where I work, we get the child support referrals when the kids leave the home.
mm,
So yeah, it's it's
and
real.
one thing I wanted to say to you, Mr. Faze, is I thank you for because you said shout out to me and the team, man. We definitely thank you, man. It's a lot of work that we do, and it's not just for us, man. Our mission is to impact the lives of anybody that's willing to learn. But as far as this stuff goes, that's another thing where something I used to think about. I would say years ago, a few years back, mainly when like shorties wanted the first like when like all these shorties wanted to have my baby like when that first started to happen for me, and I was thinking about like even if I do have a kid, like how would I raise my kid? You feel me? And I got I got great ideas on how to raise them because I understand what it took for me to understand certain things about life, and I'm gonna help my child surpass me
That's
or
the
try to
point.
surpass. I'm still growing, so you got work, to bucko. But but I think that's one of the main things where like now enforcing that's the enforcing that rule of we gonna arrest the parent if the kid ain't in school.
Yeah,
Like that's another issue. Like the middle class. Remember I said the middle class. These little issues that who focuses on these issues. You don't see my mom called me and told me that. I laughed. Why? Because I'm like, this is not something normal in my world. And it's not because I don't have kids. It's like, no, the people even that I do know that have kids, they raising their kids different.
yeah,
They're, they're doing differently with their children. Like I know somebody, their kid, the way that their kid learns, I know this person and he raises his kid based off of life experiences. So they on trips, like not him and the child per se, but him and let's say whoever's teaching the child that day, or they got a designated room for this kid for the kids to learn. And I think that right there just showing y'all in real time like what I'm saying when I say like these little middle class problems, these little I'm about to arrest you. because your child not going. Man, I'm glad I got the father I had in life, because boy, he showed me how to just, boy, you gotta weather these storms out here, and you gotta be able to just take it, man. You gotta look at it for what it is, and work around it, man. Honestly, and just understand, if you feel resistance at first, just know you're doing something right. Because when you break through the resistance, you only gonna go up. Like I'm telling y'all,
Right.
man.
But
But it's
that,
not just a
but
case of character or ability. Like sometimes the child is sick and can't go. Or in the case of
Oh
the
yeah.
indigenous children in South Dakota, sometimes they can't go because they have to go to a funeral and because that's part of their culture. And like they might be going to the funeral the morning of the school or even the night before, and they can't wake up early. And so it's like anti-culture or
Mm-hmm.
anti-indigenous culture because it's totally resisting that. Like,
Yes. Go ahead,
yeah,
phase, and then I'm gonna have us all start wrapping up because it's about that time. But
for
go for
sure,
it.
I think the issue is like the issue is that you shouldn't have to really increase your income or increase your wealth or increase your value in that way to avoid getting penalized by the system.
Mm-hmm.
hmm
The issue is if you're wanting to move up, there is no you go if you can find the resources, you will move up, right? In terms of like if you're able to meet the right people, get the right opportunity, all the things that capitalism teaches us,
Yeah.
then yeah, it's not impossible. But the issue is historically, and even more so now, people are punishing people who are staying where they are or moving down because the economy isn't good, or there or things are rapid changes are happening in their communities. Why is
Yeah.
that? We have no problem. The ceiling is space. The ceiling is infinite, right?
Yeah.
But why are we taking away the floor and letting people fall into the abyss? That's the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you shouldn't have to move up, or you shouldn't have to make more money so your kid doesn't get punished for missing school because they're sick,
Yeah.
Mm.
right? That's the issue, and I think especially most people, well, especially most people, we have no problem with people making money. Salute. But it's when people like Kamala Harris pass laws like that literally punish people,
Yeah.
right? And there's that literal attack on homeless people,
hmm
You
criminalizing their lifestyle.
you said Camilla. Just I got a question. I know I'm interrupting. You said
Sure.
Camilla passed the law for the arresting.
That was in South. I mean, that was more so in Northern California when she was the. I forgot what her
Attorney
title
The
was
General.
again.
attorney general.
The Attorney General. Yeah, but
Yeah.
again, statewide, technically, if especially if you are, especially in LAUSD, that's already the protocol to go for that. Yes, there is you have a flexibility when it comes to, of course, if you're sick and stuff, they excuse the things, but it gets to a certain point that, again, the absenteeism also links up with all these other stats that we were talking about before. Whether if it was not only the prison pipeline, but also it's a correlation between also how much a student is able to learn, especially if they're not there. If they're not at school most of the time, then it makes sense when they're taking these state tests that some of these state tests are also in line with a lot of these prison to school pipeline type stuff, which is very
Not the
crazy.
funding.
Um,
Preach.
you it gets to show you not only how far behind the kids are, but then you wonder why they start making other laws. They just keep pushing kids forward for a certain narrative to continue to happen and not allow for, again, these opportunities, resources for them if they want to move on up like the Jets, all of this stuff to happen. And this is just off of, can you even get to school?
CJ, I know I'm interrupted, but I
No,
got
I
to
mean, we're about to
go.
wrap up. No, we got to wrap up. All right, G, if
No,
you got it,
but look,
appreciate
yo,
you.
I definitely gotta go because I got some things to. But look, but yo, y'all, man, one thing if I could leave y'all on anything, man, is
To wrap.
mental mental success before physical success. I don't care what you're doing, whatever it is. I don't care if it's I need to stretch better, I need to just write better. All of these things played a factor into how I got to the point of where I am today and where I'm headed. You know, this definitely didn't just happen overnight of having this mindset and being able to talk with people like yourselves and thankfully you guys time as well for taking the time to just hear some of these things from a different, point of view, because I know most people probably don't. Because actually, that was actually something that a lady brought up to me the other day. She said you don't hear presidents and other people, open up about these certain things. And I said, wow, that's a problem. Boom, let me be the difference. I make that a point of mine. Like wherever I see that somebody ain't doing something, and this is where y'all can learn something right here if you pay attention. I pick up on that though. Like, oh, you ain't doing that? Okay, let me do that. That's an avenue that's not yet been pioneered. Okay, they say everybody can't go. I'm gonna take everybody. I'm gonna show them that everybody can do it. The people that want to do it, we gonna do it. You feel me? And that's it right there. Mental success before physical success. But let me do this thing real quick, CJ. But I appreciate y'all fellas, man, for the great insight, knowledge, and wisdom that's been shared tonight. And y'all continue to just break through them resistance levels, man.
All right. Peace and love. We appreciate you too, Dallas. Thank you for
Peace,
coming in with the
man.
chair and everything. All right.
Hey, y'all wild for that. Peace
All
and
right.
love, dog.
Peace. All right.
Peace.
Since
Uh,
we are on this,
oh,
then I'm
oh,
gonna go ahead
one
and
more
let's.
thing. Like speaking of ridiculous laws, I want people to keep updated on these two laws. One is SB 403, the other is SB 553, which is in California, which an earlier version of this bill literally said that an employee can get arrested for stopping a shoplifter, and then the business owner can be fined $1,500 for that. Uh, Thankfully, because of outcry from business owners, especially small business owners, I think they've removed those parts of the bill. But you don't know what other sneaky things they put in there. So like, keep a lookout. Like,
There it is. But with that being said, y'all, let's go ahead because we are definitely peeking into those hours right now. I appreciate though the conversations and the talks, but again, thank you, Kunin. Thank you, Face, for coming through. Dallas, everybody who has been out here in the comments, much appreciated because this is what it's about. We're building. We're not only just figuring these things out, but also trying to come up with solutions and ideas to this stuff. And don't think we just talking all this stuff out. Some of us are in these areas actually working these things out and just seeing how it can be done in real world time. But you gotta always have your think tank and your thought group, and that this is what this is. But with that being said, to give y'all your love, I would say let's start with Phase. Any of your thoughts on any of the topics for tonight, or just last wrap up things you want to share with everybody?
Oh, for sure. First off, great to see you two. It's been a minute. I'm glad I
Likewise.
decided to tune in. I love the discussion. And thank you for just having a platform and building that think tank. I think is really important. Um, I think this is something that I often think about, especially during football season,
Mm,
is we we are essentially, if you're born in this country or spend some time in this country, more or less, you are kind of bred into capitalism at its finest. And I think it's okay for us to acknowledge and exist that we're in this system.
yeah.
It's okay for us to have our biases. Like I'm I'm very pro worker, but I'm a fan of a league that is, ruled by rich white owners that are really profiting off of black bodies. I realize that. But you know, it's something that yeah, it's a dichotomy, and it's in this life, in this system is full of them, and that's okay. And we can accept and live and work within the system because we have to. We really don't have a choice, but really work to change it, especially when it's not for those who are most impacted or those that it's not working
Yeah.
for. We can advocate for a better system and acknowledge people who are successful in it, right? And and state and educate them as to why or why not, and the various things that are wrong. We can do all the things. We can walk and chew gum, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where we have to start in order to kind of change, right? Because when Jay-Z is like, well, they call me things like, billion, they use the word billionaire like a bad term. Like, well, yeah, you have to look at where people are coming from when they
Mm-hmm.
say those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
We're proud of you, Hove, salute. You got a lot of money, and yes, we can't expect you to fix all the problems, but you have the power and you have the resources and connections to make those kinds of
Yeah.
impacts. That's why we're upset with
Yeah.
you. Is that his fault?
No.
No, because he's not a politician. He's not a lawmaker. He's not a senator. But unfortunately, capital begets capital, and capital pulls together. Very, very close to power. So I think we can do these things. We can be like, hey, these things need to change and applaud people. And I know it kind of sounds like, oh, you're caping for people, but I'm
Yeah.
really not. It'll take more resources to exist somewhere else. You'd have to have more money and capital to exist outside of a place that's capitalistic than a working Joe like me. So I think it's something that we just have to kind of continue to build on.
Yeah.
And feel free to tell me if I'm wrong. And that's the thing. Let's have a conversation
Yeah.
and really change and really build and strengthen the frame.
Appreciate it. Thank you for that wrap up. Thank you for the comments. And always we're appreciative of when you come through and you share and you add, you know, your thoughts and your perspective, because that's all it is really at the end of the day. It's not just a conversation. I'm not trying to convert nobody. It's not a dialogue. I'm not trying to die by what I'm trying to tell people, but it's a reasoning. I'm really trying to figure out the reasons to why we act, say, and speak on what we speak on. So appreciate you for that. All right, Kundan, wrap up. What you got for us? Again, this is the
Um,
wealth of knowledge. All of this, please.
yeah, I think we are definitely legally pawns, and it's important to look up other other forms of pawns, like the token, the Trojan horse, the sock puppet, the foot soldier, the spokesperson,
Mm.
the double agent, right? All these, uh,
Mm.
the agent provocator, uh, the kind that will, vandalize shops in the middle of a peaceful protest. Those are the agent provocators, right? Uh, so yeah, and then also the tokens, right? This system, this colonial white supremacist system, this Abrahamic supremacist system, this Christian supremacist system is operated through tokens, right? And Trojan horses and foot soldiers. Because they had black slave catchers even back in the day. And in India, most of their army were Indian soldiers. The British operated and was able to rule India through like our own people, through our own soldiers, right? In fact, when they did a strike a few years before India's independence, the Navy did a strike, and then it really scared the British, and then Gandhi manipulated them into stopping that strike, right? So Gandhi was actually another colonial puppet, and he's been uplifted for no good reason. Actually, for a good reason, because he was a puppet, they uplifted him. Uh, so, um, yeah, so it's important to know the real history of things as well, in order to stand and deliver ourselves away from the system, like the fact that Gandhi was a puppet as well as Nehru was a puppet, and he wasn't even democratically elected, right? There, there was another guy who was democratically elected, and Gandhi told him to step down. So, and he listened. So yeah, it's like mind blowing when you like learn the real history behind these things and these like heroes that have been uplifted, right? Like, and the real people like Bhagat Singh who had violent resistance, right? So because the white supremacists love the colonial system loves nonviolence. That's why they uplift that, right? Because they don't want us to fight, right? That's why in every Dr. King Day, they will quote all the nice, peaceful things he said, but they'll never quote his very militant, radical stuff. Like they'll
Yeah.
never quote the letter from Birmingham Jail, right? And of course, they never quote Malcolm X, right? At all. Like it's so so we have to understand like how much, like the depths of how much we've been duped and how much
Yes.
we've been lied to, like, and how much we've been manipulated. That's one of the keys to stand and deliver ourselves away from the system, and to not really like trust the political process. We have to like actively find a way beyond it, because this is a duopoly, which is basically kind of like a dictatorship, right? Like we only have two choices. And this is a representative democracy. It's not a direct democracy,
Yeah.
right? So, and it's just a point of view, because another way to look at representative democracy is that instead of a dictatorship of one person, it's a dictatorship by 600 people, dictatorship of 600 people, or whatever the number is in each country,
Yeah.
right? In the case of the United States, it's approximately 600 people, right? Because there is a president, there is about 471 members and House and 100 senators. So yeah. So yeah, it's like, and we have to stop believing in American exceptionalism, and we have to acknowledge our global not privilege and not go into this global not fragility when we're called on that. And that applies to everyone like living here, right? Yeah, all of that. Like,
Eloquently spoken. That's all I have to say.
Listening to
Man.
Kundan speak is like listening to my favorite rapper on a track. like he's spitting.
Yes.
He's spitting.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you didn't know? You didn't know? Kundi put some bars down. Yeah, you didn't know
I
that.
trust me, I know that's why I'm tuning in.
This again, y'all. Thank you too so much for coming through. Thank you, Dallas, everybody, for sharing your thoughts and wrapping up and again building, because that's at the end of the day, for any foundation to be made and anything to come to fruition, there's the action of being builders. So, and that's a nod to my brother FaZe over here, man. So to wrap up for myself, when it comes to current events, main thing I always say, proper preparation prevents poor performance. So being aware, a lot of this stuff, whether if it's the news, whether if it's what we're speaking on, awareness is key. So for you to have that awareness and knowing what's going on, please take the time to be informed and get informed so that you can properly help those, your loved ones, and anyone that is around you, so that you can know what to do next. So stay informed. Second, when it comes to legally pawns, I've read off. Y'all can go check the definitions, run them. Go look up at Webster's. Look at any of the other different definitions for it. The one that I know that pops out to me the most ended up saying the state of pledging. We already do the act of pledging allegiance to what? It's already showing that, again, in that particular sense, we are pawns. Where we work, how we work, the system and the state itself. It is a corporation. It is a company. How it's ran, as well as you put your name on any type of bonding legal form document, you already have stated and pledged yourself to that particular place. So in a legal sense, we are pawns. As well as I also use the whole metaphorical aspect of the chess and versus not being checkers. Y'all can check that out later and do much more on that. And lastly, can we stand and deliver ourselves away from the system? I I will say I agree with FaZe, but in a different aspect. So yes, we can, but at what cost and at what stake? So do we have the prior skills, the prior knowledge, the prior resources to be able fully sustain ourselves outside of a system that has been running for, well, I know we're still very, very young, but again, a numerous of years before us. Again, Rome wasn't built in a day. Whatever we're trying to concept and have an idea of was not built in a day. It takes time, effort, ability, intention, and really at the end of the day, it's sacrifice. Are you willing to sacrifice all of these amenities and of your time and feel like your lifetime is going to be wasted to build for the next generation? That's your intention behind it. But other than that, we appreciate y'all. This has been another episode of What's the Word Wednesdays, season 4. This is the final season. Y'all got to get in on this before it's done. So Shouts out to everyone that's here that be watching this now or later. Check us out on YouTube, A.D.V.I.S.S Speaks. I mean, check all of these folks out too as well. I'm gonna put them all down in the comments and things of that sort. So we're gonna come back again next Wednesday talking about some stuff, as long as nothing happens next Wednesday for myself. I don't know the topic, but y'all will find out. But other than that, y'all, I've been your brother A.D.V.I.S.S. It's Kundan. It's FaZe. We will catch y'all next time for What's the Word Wednesdays. Peace and one love. We
All
out.
right, peace.
Yo.